Chapter 134. Greetings, Saint Tai Ching, from the Zichen clan of the human race. After all the phenomenons of Dao attainment disappeared, Feng Zichen took a step forward and bowed to Daoist Tai Ching. Clan leader of the human race? Daoist Tai Ching raised his head and looked at Feng Zichen with some confusion. Isn't the clan leader of the human race Swearen in my impression? When did it become this young man? Given Daoist Tai Ching's status, why would he pay attention to the postnatal creation of the human race? It was only when Swearen created the Daluo Jingxian that he slightly noticed and had an impression of the human race. After knowing that the clan leader of the human race was Swearen, he did not care about anything else. What a familiar aura. This aura is a Dao destroyer. You're actually a Dao destroyer too. This is truly incredible. Looking at Feng Zichen, Daoist Tai Ching was surprised to discover a familiar aura. There was a trace of aura on Feng Zichen's body that he had never noticed before. It was the aura of a Dao destroyer that was mighty and vast, yet extremely thin and almost non-existent. If not for the fact that Daoist Tai Ching had just opened up the Golden Core lineage and was extremely sensitive to that aura, he would have been fooled. Starting from nothing and opening up a path of cultivation for all living beings, giving them the possibility of transcendence. Just how difficult was this? Those who could do that were all people with great wisdom. Such a person would definitely be favored by the great Tao and be blessed by providence. Looking at Feng Zichen, Daoist Tai Ching's eyes flashed with two divine lights that derived the principles of yin and yang, as if he could see through the past and future. At this moment, Feng Zichen had the illusion that he had been seen through. It was as if under this gaze, he had nothing to hide, and all his secrets were exposed in front of the other party. However, an illusion was ultimately an illusion. Although Dao being Tai Ching was strong, it was clear that Pangu was stronger. With the help of Pangu, who in the untainted land could really see through Feng Zichen. Clearly, Daoist Tai Ching could not do it. Under Pangu's power, everything that Feng Zichen had experienced had been modified and rearranged. The things that involved the secrets of heaven and earth had been replaced by new memories. Everything seemed so natural, as if he had experienced it himself. Even Daoist Tai Ching could not find any flaws in the river of time and space. The first postnatal creature born with the fortune of heaven and earth? Turning the impossible into the possible, opening up a path of cultivation for postnatal life forms in a hopeless situation. Truly shocking. Establishing human relations, promoting etiquette. Educating a clan, this is the merit of education. After looking at Feng Zichen's past, Daoist Tai Ching could not help but sigh. This was a person with true wisdom. Are you willing to acknowledge poor Wei as your master? After a moment of silence, Daoist Tai Ching suddenly asked him. Since ancient times, those who attained the Tao all had great luck, perseverance, and wisdom. Feng Zichen had all three and had already seen a possibility of attaining the Tao. Not only did it make Daoist Tai Ching want to take him in as a disciple. Moreover, putting everything else aside, Feng Zichen's identity as the first postnatal life form was enough for Daoist Tai Ching to value him. The first connate life form in the primordial world was called Hong Jun. Even though connate life forms could not compare to postnatal life forms, their future was destined to be limitless since they were the first. Moreover, Feng Zichen also had the merit of educating people. Daoist Tai Ching established a sect and became a saint in the name of educating all living beings. If he took Feng Zichen as his disciple, their luck would be connected and he would be able to complete the teachings. It would be very beneficial to him. If I acknowledge you as my master, will you be willing to protect the human race? After thinking about it, Feng Zichen did not agree immediately and asked instead. Now that his wings were formed, as long as he continued to move forward, Daluo Jingxian would be within reach. He was confident that he could even become a quasi-saint and did not need anyone's protection anymore. Therefore, he was not very interested in acknowledging Daoist Tai Ching as his master. Now, he was more concerned about the future of the human race. The saints had already appeared and the demon race's massacre of humans was not far away. In such a short period of time, no matter how hard the human race worked to develop, it would be impossible for them to have the strength to resist the demons. After all, even the saints had to avoid facing the demons who were sitting on Zhouxing's luck, let alone the small human race. Therefore, he had to prepare a way out for the human race in advance for the future. If Daoist Tai Ching was willing to protect the human race, it would not matter if he acknowledged him as his master. This. Daoist Tai Ching hesitated for a moment and did not know how to answer. After advancing to a saint, his vision had been infinitely improved and he could see the future more clearly. Naturally, he could see that the human race would face a great calamity in the future that was close to extinction. That calamity came from the demons and was vaguely related to the saints. That was precisely why Daoist Tai Ching was hesitant. In order to protect the human race, he had to offend two forces at the same time. Even if he was not afraid, it was still very troublesome. A small human race was not worth his attention. Although Daoist Tai Ching had comprehended the opportunity to become a saint in the human race, he had established Ren School in order to educate all living beings of the human Tao and the primordial world, not just the human race. He had created the Golden Core Tao for all the postnatal living beings in the future, not just for the human race. He did not have a deep relationship with the human race. It made sense. If Daoist Tai Ching could become a saint just by educating the human race, with the current strength of the human race, they would have been divided up by many mighty figures long ago. No one would be able to protect them. As for why Ren School would control the destiny of the human race in the future, according to Feng Zichen's guess, Daoist Tai Ching should have tied Ren School to the chariot of the human race when he saw that the human race was about to become the main character of the world. The human race was created by junior sister Nuwa. She will naturally protect them. As an outsider, Poor Wei can't interfere. However, if you're willing to acknowledge Poor Wei as your master, Poor Wei will naturally protect you. After a long while, Daoist Grand Pure One rejected with a troubled expression. However, at the same time, he also expressed his intention to protect Feng Zichen. Now that I think about it, the human race is related to Goddess Nuwa. Why didn't you think of it when you were preaching the Tao? While thinking this, Feng Zichen said, then I can only refuse the saint's kindness. As soon as he finished speaking, Feng Zichen was afraid that such a straightforward rejection would cause Daoist Tai Ching to be displeased. Hence, he hurriedly explained. When I was young, I once received the teachings of Goddess Nuwa. If I want to acknowledge her as my master now, I have to obtain her consent first. In that case, upon hearing Feng Zichen's words, Daoist Tai Ching was in a difficult position. He had just offended Nuwa. If he rashly accepted Feng Zichen as his disciple now, they would probably fall out completely. Ah. In that case, it seems that your fate with Poor Wei has yet to come. Let's talk about taking in disciples in the future. Daoist Tai Ching sighed and said regretfully. Chapter 135. Even though he said that, Daoist Tai Ching already had an idea. In the future, as the leader of the human race, Feng Zichen would definitely be the first to bear the brunt of the calamity of the human race and would be in danger of dying. At that time, he would protect Feng Zichen's life and take him in as a disciple. Nuwa would not say anything either. Thank you for your kindness, Saint. No matter what Daoist Tai Ching's intentions were, he had already expressed his goodwill and Feng Zichen would naturally not be tactful. There's no need for that. Although you're not fated to be with Poor Wei, you're still fated to be with her. Poor Wei will give you some benefits. After thinking for a moment, Daoist Tai Ching took out a pearl that was shrouded in flames and handed it to Feng Zichen. This treasure is useless in Poor Wei's hands, so I'll give it to you for self-defense. This is the fire spirit pearl. As soon as the treasure appeared, the chaos bead in Feng Zichen's body sensed it and he could not help but exclaim. That's right. This treasure is the connate fire spirit pearl that contains the fire spirit of the heavens and can burn everything. It's a superior grade connate numinous treasure. Accept it. Daoist Tai Ching nodded with a smile and urged. Then. I'll accept it shamelessly, Zichen. To others, this item might be a rare treasure, but to Daoist Tai Ching, it was something that he could do without. Coupled with the fact that Feng Zichen indeed needed this item, he did not decline and stepped forward to receive it. As for this elixir, After Feng Zichen accepted the Khanate Fire Spirit Pearl, Daoist Tai Ching looked at the 9 orifices golden core and the 8 trigrams furnace and fell into deep thought. The 9 orifices golden core was the source of the golden core Dao. It contained great merit and providence and could create a Daluo Jinxian out of thin air. Feng Zichen looked at the elixir and was extremely tempted. Forget it. The gold core Dao was born in the human race and is innately entangled with the human race. In the future, we will have to rely on the human race to prosper. The poor Wei will leave this gold core to the human race. After deducing for a moment in his heart, Daoist Tai Ching realized that the golden core Dao was deeply entangled with the human race. Hence, he waved his sleeve and sent the 9 orifice golden core into Mount Shouyang before disappearing. I'll leave the 9 orifice golden pill on Shouyang Mountain and await the fated one, Daoist Tai Ching said to everyone after he was done. Thank you, sage, for your kindness. Everyone bowed emotionally. That was a Daluo Dao fruit. If they obtained it, they would be able to reach the heavens in a single bound and become the Daluo Jinxian. How could they not be excited? This matter is over. The poor Wei should return to Kunlun Mountain. Daoist Tai Ching waved his hand and lifted everyone up. His figure slowly disappeared and he returned to Kunlun Mountain. Farewell, sage. The crowd dispersed after bowing in the direction where Daoist Tai Ching disappeared. Clan leader, that's a sage. He's the top existence of the primordial world and he wants to take you in as his disciple. How could you refuse? What are you thinking? After Daoist Tai Ching left for a while, Yang asked Feng Zichen with a puzzled expression. It was a great thing to have a sage as his master. He really could not understand why Feng Zichen would refuse. You don't understand. Feng Zichen shook his head and did not explain anything to Yang. Daoist Tai Ching had already angered Nuwa by coming to the human race to preach. If he became Daoist Tai Ching's disciple, what would Nuwa do? By then, Daoist Tai Ching might not be afraid of Nuwa's anger, but his position as the clan leader of the human race would be unstable. Moreover, Daoist Tai Ching's strength was unfathomable. If he became Daoist Tai Ching's disciple, he would have to stay under his nose for a long time. In that case, Feng Zichen was not confident that he could hide his secrets completely. Hence, Feng Zichen did not dare to acknowledge him as his master. However, the sage was almost omniscient and omnipotent. If he dared to say anything bad about them, he would definitely be sensed by the sage. By then, there would be trouble. By the way, Yang, you're a Khanate human and you cultivate the cultivation technique passed down by Emperor Sui. It's similar to the Golden Core Dao. You can switch to this cultivation technique and go to Mount Shouyang to try your opportunity. Seeing that Yang still wanted to say something, Feng Zichen hurriedly changed the topic. In the current human race, most of the postnatal humans cultivated the God-Fiend Dao and gradually became the mainstream. They might not be interested in the Golden Core Dao. On the other hand, Khanate humans cultivated Qi refinement techniques that were similar to the Golden Core Dao. Hence, it was extremely easy to switch to this cultivation technique. It's not that simple. At my realm, I've basically determined my Dao path. How can I change it just like that? Besides, if I had a great opportunity, I wouldn't have been forced to abandon the city by the ferocious beasts. I'm afraid I'm not fated with this pill. Yang shook her head. She was not optimistic about her chances of obtaining the 9-hold golden pill. That's right. At your realm, you've already begun to look forward to Daluo. It's not easy to change your Dao foundation. However, if you have nothing to do, you can try to figure out the Golden Core Dao. After all, it's a sage's personal disciple. It contains the truth of the great Dao. Even if you don't cultivate it, you can still get a lot of benefits by looking at it every day. It can make up for the shortcomings of your cultivation technique. Now that Feng Zichen had the vision of Daluo, his understanding of the great Dao became more thorough. Naturally, he could guide the cultivation of these Tai Jinxian. I'll remember it. Yang nodded and said. Today, the 5 sages have come out together. It's really a grand occasion in the untainted land. I'm sure that in the next tens of thousands of years, the untainted land will usher in a golden age of cultivation. You arrange the affairs in the city and go cultivate well. Strive to become Daluo Jingxian as soon as possible to strengthen the fate of the human race. Feng Zichen looked at the sky and said leisurely. Daluo Jingxian? It's easy for you to say. I'll be satisfied if I can become a half-step Daluo. I don't dare to dream of becoming a Daluo Jingxian. Hearing Feng Zichen's words, Yang was speechless. People always have dreams. What if it comes true? Feng Zichen's figure gradually faded. Well, I'll stop chatting with you. So many things have happened in the untainted land. I should go back and comfort my people. It's your own business. But remember, if you don't believe that you can become a Daluo Jingxian, then you definitely can't become a Daluo Jingxian. To become a Daluo Jingxian, the first condition is self-confidence. That's all I have to say. Think about it carefully. Self-confidence? Yang murmured and fell into silence. The world has really changed. Flying in the air, Feng Zichen could clearly feel that the world had changed with the birth of the sages. The Khanate Qi was gradually thickening, the void was more stable, and the laws of heaven and earth were perfected. They were incomparably active and easier for cultivators to perceive. The whole world presented a scene of prosperity. But Feng Zichen knew that this was only temporary. With the perfection of the heavenly Tao, it would be extremely difficult for people to perceive the laws of heaven and earth. The current activity of the laws of heaven and earth was the aftertaste of the sage's Tao. It would not last long. Chapter 136. It seems that I have to reach the Daluo Jingxian realm as soon as possible. Knowing that the cultivation environment in the primordial world would become difficult after tens of thousands of years, Feng Zichen could not help but feel a little impatient. With the help of the fate of the human race, Feng Zichen's progress could be said to be rapid. He was now not far from the Daluo Jingxian. What he lacked was nothing more than accumulation. After all, apart from comprehending the great Tao, cultivation was also a process of accumulation. He had to constantly polish his Tao and increase his maturity. He had cultivated for less than 50,000 years. Compared to the Tai Jingxian who had lived for millions or tens of millions of years, his accumulation was too little and his maturity was slightly insufficient. Even though Feng Zichen had the Daluo Jingxian realm, his maturity was insufficient. His origin was too thin and was not enough to support him. Breaking through to the Daluo Jingxian realm made people feel a little helpless. Time, what I lack the most now is time. Unfortunately, I've never heard of any time mystic realms in the primordial world that can accelerate my time. Otherwise, I can use this to quickly step into the Daluo Jingxian realm and save hundreds of thousands of years of accumulation. To break through to the Daluo Jingxian realm required a long time of accumulation. Even if Feng Zichen was anxious, there was nothing he could do about it. Of course, not all living beings needed to accumulate. At the very least, innate god fiends did not need to. They were originally formed by the innate origin. When their cultivation level reached a certain level, they would naturally advance. If innate god fiends were treated the same as ordinary living beings, how could they live up to their title of biological son of the heavenly Tao? How could they set off their special status? Suiren had only cultivated for 100,000 years more than Feng Zichen, but he had been able to reach the Daluo Jingxian realm earlier. It was because he was the first person that Nuwa had created. He had poured in Nuwa's blood, sweat, and tears. His innate origin was extremely dense and was not inferior to the innate god fiends. Therefore, he did not need to accumulate. He could break through to Daluo Jingxian as soon as his cultivation level reached a certain level. After returning to the human race, Feng Zichen first checked on the situation of the human race. Seeing that nothing major had happened, he sent out his divine Tao incarnation to handle the affairs of the human race for him. As for himself, he returned to Zichen's grotto heaven to absorb the innate qi and condense his origin energy. He wanted to break through to the level of Daluo Jingxian as soon as possible. On this day, after Feng Zichen failed to communicate with the world tree in the chaos bead, he tried to suppress it and forcefully extract its Khanate origin. However, he was interrupted by two powerful auras. Poor Wei, Daoist Yu Qing of Kunlun Mountain, will open the mountain gate today. Anyone who is fated to come to the front of the Jade Palace can be a disciple of Poor Wei. Poor Wei's Daoist Shangqing of Kunlun Mountain will open the mountain gate today. Anyone who wants to pursue Taoism can head to Kunlun Mountain and become Poor Wei's disciple. Humph. You're lucky this time. After I'm done with this, I'll teach you a lesson. Feng Zichen glared at the world tree and left for the ancestral temple. After returning to the human race for less than 100 years, Feng Zichen was already tired of the process of collecting innate qi. He couldn't help but come up with an idea. He was only missing 9 innate essences to reach the level of Daluo Jingxian. Why did he have to condense them bit by bit? He could just take them and refine them. In the Eldritch Wilderness, the innate gods and demons were the ones with the most abundant innate essences, followed by the various innate spiritual treasures, and lastly, the innate living beings all over the Eldritch Wilderness. However, Feng Zichen couldn't just go on a killing spree and kill innate gods and innate beings for the sake of condensing the innate origin, could he? This was not in line with his original intention, so he couldn't do it. As for the innate spiritual treasures, each of them was extremely precious and could only be found by chance. Moreover, Feng Zichen's innate spiritual treasures were all very useful. How could he be willing to destroy them and take their essences? After thinking for a while, he turned his attention to the world tree. What was more suitable than the world essence to refine the innate essences? Moreover, he'd put in a lot of effort to raise the world tree, but the benefits he'd gained from it could be counted on one hand. On the other hand, the world tree had gained a lot from him. It shrank back when something bad happened and disappeared. But it was always the first to appear when something good happened. To be honest, Feng Zichen had tolerated it for a long time. Now, Feng Zichen wanted to borrow some of the world essence from the world tree, but after a long discussion, the world tree refused. He was furious. If he didn't teach it a lesson, it would really think he was the boss. All golden immortals of the human race, come to the ancestral temple at once. His voice was loud and spread throughout the human race, ringing in the ears of every human golden immortal and summoning them to the meeting hall. In the meeting hall, Feng Zichen sat on the main seat and looked at the immortals below. Everyone, now that the primeval Lord of Heaven and the primeval Lord of Numinous Treasure have opened their doors and are recruiting disciples from the primeval world, I want you to go to Kunlun Mountain to try your luck. What do you think? This, we have no objections. It's just that we humans are born weak. I'm afraid that even if we go to Kunlun Mountain, the saints won't take us seriously. Everyone looked at each other and hesitated for a moment before replying to Feng Zichen. They knew their own situation. As a race born after birth, even if they were personally created by the saints, they couldn't be compared to the other innate races except for their appearance that resembled the connate Tao aptitude. Moreover, many of those who went to Kunlun Mountain to seek a master were probably connate god fiends. If they went to seek a master, the saints wouldn't take them seriously. Don't worry about this. Didn't the primeval Lord of Numinous Treasure say that anyone who has the heart to seek the Tao can become his disciple? Even if you can't become his true disciple, it's your blessing to be an in-name disciple and listen to his teachings. Alright, if there are no objections, you should leave quickly so that you don't miss the time. The primeval Lord of Heaven valued his roots the most and probably looked down on the human race. Although it was said that he liked the human race, among his disciples, except for Jiang Zia, no one had heard of the human race. It was obvious that the legend was not credible. The Grand Master of Heaven taught everyone without discrimination. The chances of them joining the GS sect were very high. It was not bad to be able to get the title of an outer sect disciple. Moreover, even if they failed to become his disciples, it didn't matter. Because in the end, the 3 pure ones would each preach the Tao. All living beings near Kunlun Mountain could hear it, so that those who failed to become his disciples would not make a wasted trip. After calculating, they would only benefit from going to Kunlun Mountain to become his disciples, regardless of whether they succeeded or not. Moreover, the journey to Kunlun Mountain was long, and it could also be used to train them. With so many benefits, how could they not want it? Well, why haven't you left yet? After coming back to his senses, Feng Zichen looked down and saw that everyone was still hesitating and standing there. He couldn't help but feel a little angry and sneered. Don't tell me that you don't even have the heart to seek the Tao. Seeing that he was angry, everyone hurriedly said, Patriarch, please calm down. We'll leave right away. Chapter 137. After everyone left, Feng Zichen's figure flashed, and he entered the chaos beat again. However, before he could do anything, layers of green light appeared on the Tree of World. Innate runes appeared, and the aura of the world origin flowed. It was mysterious and unpredictable. Then, the green light shook and suddenly condensed into a ball of world origin, which flowed into Feng Zichen's body. Not bad. When I become Daluo Jingxian, I'll give you a lot of benefits. This time, the Tree of World was so tactful that Feng Zichen's mood improved a lot. His hatred for it also decreased a lot. Then, divine light surged in Feng Zichen's body. Runes flashed, and the heaven and earth furnace appeared on its own. It swallowed the world origin that flowed into his body and drew in the power of heaven and earth to refine it. There was a loud boom. Flames of the way appeared and burned fiercely. It carried the power to distort the void and burn toward the world origin. Traces of green light flowed out of the world origin, turning into the purest origin energy. It kept merging into Feng Zichen's origin. It continued to grow and shorten the gap between him and Daluo Jingxian. This method is indeed feasible. Refining this ball of world origin alone is equivalent to 100,000 years of cultivation. Moreover, the truth of heaven and earth contained in the world origin has benefited me greatly. After 100 years, Feng Zichen completely absorbed the world origin and woke up from his meditation. He couldn't help but exclaim when he sensed the changes in his body. As he spoke, Feng Zichen turned his gaze back to the Tree of World. A ball of world origin was equivalent to 100,000 years of cultivation. If he had a few more balls, he wouldn't be far away from becoming Daluo Jingxian. As if sensing Feng Zichen's malicious gaze, the Tree of World trembled and shrank into the center of the chaos space. Its branches and leaves swayed, expressing its grievance. Sigh. Feng Zichen sighed. He understood that the Tree of World Origin had accumulated this ball of world origin for 10,000 years. The next time he wanted to get it, he would have to wait another 10,000 years. Although the world tree could absorb the power of the endless dimensions and condense the origin, it could not do so. However, it still needed to support the 3,000 great worlds, which consumed a lot of energy. It was already not easy to squeeze out a lump of world origin, but it was impossible to take out too much. Looks like I'll have to find more chaos products in the future to accelerate the growth of the world tree. Only then will it be able to gather more world origin. The current Tree of World was still too weak. If it could truly grow up, even if it supported the entire untainted land, a mere world origin would be nothing to it. After sighing for a while, Feng Zichen returned to the Ziwei mountain and continued to breathe in Xiantian Qi. Cultivation, in the end, still required one to be able to endure loneliness. Even if he didn't like it, he had to slowly learn to adapt. Just like that, in the thousands of years that followed, Feng Zichen stayed on Ziwei Mountain, either teaching disciples, breathing in and out Xiantian Qi, or cultivating divine arts. Other than the fact that his days were a little boring, he could be considered to have lived a happy life. After all, due to the influence of the sage's Tao, the world was clear and bright. It was a great opportunity to cultivate. The experts of the various races of the untainted land were cultivating in seclusion and comprehending the great Tao. They had no time to fight again, so the untainted land once again welcomed the long-awaited peace. Roar. On this day, accompanied by an earth-shattering dragon roar, the river of destiny suddenly trembled. A ball of bright light, emitting the aura of the great Tao, slowly rose from the river of destiny and transcended it. Dragon race? This new Daluo Jingxian is actually a dragon? I didn't expect that after the ancient times, a new Daluo Jingxian would be born in the dragon race. Is the dragon race going to rise again? The change in the river of destiny attracted the attention of some mighty figures. When they saw that the person who had attained Tao was a dragon, they all revealed shocked expressions. The birth of a new Daluo Jingxian in the dragon race undoubtedly meant that the restrictions of the heavenly Tao on the dragon race had been lifted. As the former overlord of the world, would the dragon race really be willing to guard the four seas? This aura. It's Water Dragon King. He has attained Tao. On Ziwei Mountain, sensing the familiar aura, Feng Zichen naturally understood who the person who had attained Tao was. Speaking of which, Dragon Lord has comprehended the Tao of Daluo for so long. It's normal for him to attain Tao at this time. However, calculating the time, it's not far from Ao Shue's coming of age ceremony. It's time for me to leave for the East Sea. Thinking of Ao Shue, Feng Zichen's heart stirred. He instructed his 3 disciples and rushed to the East Sea. Feng Jia, Jiang Xiong, Jiang Hui, I have something to do and will leave for a while. If you have anything, go to the ancestral temple and ask my incarnation. With that, without waiting for the 3 to answer, Feng Zichen's figure disappeared from Ziwei Mountain. Although Daluo Jingxian was not as great as a sage, he could travel the entire untainted land with a thought. That was no small matter. They could place themselves outside of time. No matter how much time had passed, the outside world would always be still. Using that to travel, they could achieve the effect of teleportation. Therefore, just a moment ago, Feng Zichen was still on Ziwei Mountain, but in the next moment, he was outside of Three Immortal Island. As for why he came to Three Immortal Island first and not directly to the Dragon Palace, it was to prepare a gift for Ao Shue. The coming of age ceremony was a once-in-a-lifetime event. With the relationship between Feng Zichen and Ao Shue, it was not good for him to go empty-handed. However, he did not have anything good on hand that he could give. After thinking about it, he thought of a spiritual treasure on Three Immortal Island that was very compatible with Ao Shue. As he took a step forward, his vision suddenly darkened and the void changed drastically. Innate Tao patterns intertwined and the qi of yin and yang was vast and mighty. An innate formation slowly unfolded and trapped Feng Zichen within. This was the innate yin and yang dust formation. In the formation, the yin and yang were constantly changing and the dust could turn into the universe. It was an innate formation that was personally set up by Daoist Shangqing. Feng Zichen was one with Xian Qing. The innate tripartite formation on Three Immortal Island recognized him, but this formation did not. Therefore, as soon as he approached Three Immortal Island, this formation treated him as an intruder and trapped him within. Daoist Shangqing had left a backup plan in this formation. Once Feng Zichen forced his way into this formation, he would definitely be sensed by it. If he were to be treated as an intruder and casually killed, it would be a joke. Therefore, if he wanted to enter the island, he could only use his wits. He took out the Hongmeng Daozhong and gently knocked it. Under the melodious sound of the bell, Feng Zichen's body distorted and immediately turned into a ball of innate yin and yang qi. He merged with the formation and rushed into the island. Back then, when the Hongmeng Daozhong was still an upper-grade innate spiritual treasure, it could silently pass through the innate tripartite formation. Now, it was already an innate spiritual treasure of the highest grade. In addition, Feng Zichen's strength was not inferior to Daluo Jingxian. No matter how strong the innate yin and yang dust formation was, it was not controlled by anyone and there was no main formation item. How could it stop Feng Zichen? After a few days, he stepped onto Penglai Island. Chapter 138. Very good. This lotus seed is ripe at the right time. In the center of Penglai Island, Feng Zichen looked at the lotus seed that was surrounded by divine light on the 12th grade pure white lotus and couldn't help but smile. When Xian Qing transformed, the creation qi and connate clear qi descended and were absorbed by the 12th grade pure white lotus, forming this lotus seed. It gathered the power of creation, clear spirit, and pure white lotus and gave birth to a mysterious change. Its potential was sublimated and far surpassed the other lotus seeds. If nurtured properly, it could be a supreme-grade connate spiritual treasure in the future. Unfortunately, whether it was the chaos bead or the tree of world, they were all treasures. Feng Zichen already had a hard time nurturing them, but he didn't have the energy to nurture this lotus seed. In his hands, it could only become a superior-grade connate spiritual treasure at most. But if he gave it to Ao Shue, it would be different. The dragon clan had dominated the untainted land for many years and had a deep foundation. They would definitely be able to nurture it into a supreme-grade connate spiritual treasure. In this way, Ao Shui would have a supreme-grade connate spiritual treasure to protect her, and Feng Zichen would be relieved. Fortunately, when Xian Qing went to Kunlun Mountain, this lotus seed was not ripe yet. Therefore, he left the 12th grade creation white lotus behind. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to find a suitable treasure to give to Ao Shui in a short time. It would be awkward if I went to the Dragon Palace in time. With that thought in mind, Feng Zichen didn't slow down. He walked to the front of the pure white lotus and reached out to pluck the lotus seed. However, after plucking the lotus seed, he didn't leave. Instead, he continued to walk forward and came to the bottom of the Chaos Spirit Pool. There was a Chaos Spirit Spring there that kept spewing out chaotic essence chi. The Chaos Spirit Spring played a huge role in the extraordinariness of the Three-Deity Island. There were pieces of black jade around the Chaos Spirit Spring. They shone brightly and were surrounded by chaotic essence chi. Those were Chaos Essence Stones, which were formed by chaotic essence chi. They were also the purpose of Feng Zichen's visit. The Water Dragon King had attained the Tao of Daluo Jinxian. As his good friend, Feng Zichen couldn't go to the Dragon Palace empty-handed. Furthermore, the ancestral dragon had been of great help to him. He had to pay him a visit when he went to the Dragon Palace. It would not be good to go empty-handed. Of course, it was just a Chaos Origin Stone. Although it was not bad, what kind of person was the ancestral dragon? How could this stone enter his eyes? Therefore, Feng Zichen took out the Hongmeng Daozhong and tapped it lightly. Clang! As the bell rang, Hongmeng Daozhong's Hongmeng Qi poured down from his body and swept out in all directions, drowning the entire spirit pool of chaos. It was like a surging purple ocean. Roar! An inexplicable roar sounded, and a terrifying aura filled the air. In the ocean formed by the Hongmeng Qi, huge figures appeared one after another. They were terrifying and mysterious. There were at least 3,000 figures in different shapes and sizes. They exuded the charm of the Great Path and were surrounded by chaotic evil chi. They were like the masters of all things, the source of the Great Path. They were extremely noble. That was the mark of the Chaos Demon God, which was branded on the Hongmeng Daozhong. Now, it was activated by Feng Zichen and manifested. Boom! The moment they appeared, there was a sudden throbbing in heaven and earth. The laws seemed to be afraid. The void was trembling as if it was going to collapse and return to chaos. Condense. Feng Zichen formed a spell and pointed at the Hongmeng Qi. Rumble. The Hongmeng Qi boiled and rushed toward the mark of the Chaos Demon God. Soon, the marks of 10 Chaos Demon Gods became clear and powerful aura filled the air. Among the 10 Chaos Demon Gods, 5 of them were filled with the charm of the Great Path of the 5 Elements. They represented the highest achievement of the Great Path of the 5 Elements and corresponded to the Great Path of the 5 Elements sacred beasts. The other 5 Chaos Demon Gods were in the shape of a dragon, a phoenix, a Kylon, a tiger, and a turtle respectively. They were the true Great Path bodies and corresponded to the 5 Elements sacred beasts. Refine. He waved his sleeve and 5 Chaos Vitality Stones flew up. The shadows of the 10 Chaos Demon Gods were wrapped in the Qi of Hongmeng and branded on the Chaos Vitality Stones in pairs. The Chaos Demon Gods were the children of the Great Path. The Great Path they practiced was extremely ancient and was the source of everything. It was completely different from the Great Path of heaven and earth in the untainted world. They were much more powerful. Feng Zichen planned to give the 5 Chaos Vitality Stones that carried the marks of the Chaos Demon Gods to the 5 Elements sacred beasts. Although the ancestral dragons were extremely powerful, the Chaos Demon Gods were not weak either. They might be even stronger. To them, there were not many things in the untainted world that could move them except for primordial treasures, such as the He-Tu, the Luo Shu, the 4 Great Lotus Thrones and so on. But this item was different. The Great Path contained in the Chaos Demon Gods was something they had never come into contact with. It was different from the untainted world and could give them unlimited inspiration and expand their Great Path. Treasures that could expand their great path were extremely precious and could enhance their strength. Who would reject them? Moreover, for the ancestral dragons who had reached the peak, every small step forward was extremely difficult. They would not reject this item. After putting away the 5 Chaos Vitality Stones, Feng Zichen called out the Water Demon God's imprint again and used the same method to create another Chaos Vitality Stone with the Water Demon God's imprint. This was a gift for the Water Dragon King. Then, Feng Zichen took out the lotus seed of the White Lotus of Purification and branded the marks of the World Purifier Demon God, the Creation Demon God and the Clear Spirit Demon God on the lotus seed. Phew! It's finally done. Feng Zichen exhaled and said tiredly. After maintaining the mark of the Chaos Demon God for such a long time, even with his strength that was comparable to Daluo Jingxian, he could not help but feel exhausted. After meditating in the Chaos Spirit Pool for several years, Feng Zichen gradually recovered with the help of the Chaos Vitality Qi in it. Let's go. Feng Zichen opened his eyes and rushed from Penglai Island to Immortal Abode Island in a flash. There was a primordial red jujube forest here. He had long wanted to transplant it to Zichen's cave. In the past, Feng Zichen was too weak to transplant the primordial red jujube tree to Zichen's cave as he was afraid that something would happen when he did it and hurt the primordial red jujube tree's origin, which would greatly reduce its efficacy. Now, it was different. Feng Zichen was no longer the same as before. Even if the primordial red jujube tree's origin was hurt, he had a way to repair it and no longer had to worry about it. After thinking for a while, Feng Zichen waved his sleeve and a gust of wind blew, uprooting half of the primordial red jujube tree and keeping it in the chaos bead. After all, the Three Immortals Island was the holy land of the itinerant immortals in the future, so there should be some treasures to serve as a facade. If all the primordial red jujube trees were taken away, it would be unsightly. Therefore, Feng Zichen left half of them on the island. After doing all this, Feng Zichen turned his gaze to the chaos bead to check the current situation of the primordial red jujube tree. Suddenly, the primordial red jujube tree had a trace of withering color after leaving the land where it had grown for many years. However, Feng Zichen had already dealt with it. Chapter 139. He pointed in the direction of the Tree of World. Below its roots, the colorful lake suddenly surged with huge waves, turning into rainbow-colored light rain that fell on the connate red date tree. The water was formed by pure connate qi. Because it had been in contact with the world tree for a long time, it had a trace of creation qi and contained a lot of vitality. After absorbing the rainbow-colored rain of light, the connate red date tree, which was originally withered, immediately straightened up and emitted a strong vitality. This world tree is still useful after all. Looking at the vigorous connate red date tree, Feng Zichen nodded happily, expressing his approval of the world tree. Let's go. With the gifts prepared, Feng Zichen had no need to stay here. He immediately took out the Hongmeng Daozhong, turned it into the connate yin and yang qi, and left the Three Immortal Island. East Sea Dragon Palace, Water Dragon Palace. When Feng Zichen arrived, the Water Dragon King, no, the Water Dragon Sovereign, had been waiting for him for a long time. Now, both of them were great existences at the level of Daluo and were particularly sensitive to the qi between heaven and earth. As early as when Feng Zichen planned to come to the East Sea, the Water Dragon Sovereign sensed it and waited here in advance. Congratulations, Dragon Sovereign. With a leap, Feng Zichen came in front of the Water Dragon Sovereign and congratulated him with a smile. The Water Dragon Sovereign cupped his hands and said solemnly, "You're too polite. I can achieve what I have today thanks to you and the human race. If the human race is in trouble in the future, I will not shirk my duty." That day, he was infected by Feng Zichen's fearless aura and realized his own shortcomings. He also felt the spirit of self-improvement from the human race, which led to his own sublimation. He completely understood the Tao of Daluo and proved the Tao of Daluo Jingxian. Because of this, the Water Dragon Sovereign and the human race formed a great karma. If he wanted to take a step forward in the future, he had to understand this karma. Therefore, after seeing Feng Zichen, he made such a promise. "Dragon Master, you don't need to do this. When the great calamity of the humankind breaks out in the future, I will be satisfied as long as Dragon Master can protect the Seven Lights province and leave some seeds for the humankind. Pondering for a while, Feng Zichen said. Given the strength of the demon clan, if they were really determined to destroy the human clan, even the sages might not be able to do anything. One more Daluo Jingxian was just one more cannon fodder. It would not change anything. It would be better to let him protect the humans of the Seven Planets state and reduce their losses, leaving a glimmer of hope for the humans in the future. Don't worry, fellow cultivator. As long as I'm still here, I won't let the Seven Lights province suffer the slightest bit of damage. Water Dragon King hurriedly guaranteed. Feng Zichen smiled bitterly and advised, Revered Dragon, you're being too serious. If you see that things aren't going well, you should prioritize your own life. Just half of the karma of achieving the Tao was enough to make the Water Dragon Revered Dragon pay with his life. That was too much. May I ask what tribulation the human race is facing that gives you a bad premonition, fellow Taoist? The Water Dragon Lord asked in a puzzled manner upon seeing how serious his words were. Feng Zichen's words were as if he was making arrangements for his death. It could be seen that he was not very confident that the humankind would survive the great calamity. However, if everything went according to plan, 2 more great overarching golden immortals would be born in the near future. At that time, including him and Feng Zichen, the humankind would have a total of 5 Daluo Jingxian. What kind of great calamity could cause 5 Daluo Jingxian to die at the same time? In the Water Dragon Revered Dragon's memory, the most recent collective death of the Daluo Jingxian was when the Eastern Emperor Tai destroyed the Purple Mansion state. Apart from that, it had been a long time since a Daluo Jingxian died in the primordial world. I don't know either, but every time I think about the future of the humankind, I feel that the future is dark and full of death, making me have ominous thoughts. Feng Zichen shook his head, indicating that he was not sure either. Now, the conflict between the Magi and the demon race had not intensified, and the humankind had not stepped onto the stage of the primordial world. The demons naturally did not take the humankind seriously, let alone discover the uniqueness of the humankind. How could he say that the calamity of the humankind came from the demons? Wouldn't that be looking for trouble? Moreover, I once communicated with the Grand Pure One. His words seemed to have revealed that the humankind would face a great calamity in the future. After thinking for a while, Feng Zichen continued to add. He was not talking nonsense. In order to take him in as a disciple, the Grand Pure One had once indicated that he would protect him in the calamity of the humankind. If the humankind was fine, why would he say that? Wasn't this indirectly indicating that the humankind would face a great calamity in the future? Hiss, according to what you said, the calamity of the humankind is definitely not trivial. However, fellow Taoist, you don't have to be too worried. The humankind still has Goddess Nuwa behind it. Fellow Taoist, I think the goddess should have already expected something that you can sense. She must have made arrangements. The humankind should be safe this time. Fellow Taoist, don't worry. Hearing his words, the Water Dragon Revered Dragon was so shocked that he gasped. However, in the blink of an eye, he thought of the backing of the humankind and could not help but relax. I hope so. Unlike the Water Dragon Revered Dragon's optimism, Feng Zichen did not have any hope that Nuwa would help. The calamity of the humankind was related to the battle between the Magi and the demons. There was a saint behind it. Even if Nuwa wanted to help, her saint might not allow it. The outcome of being outnumbered was imaginable. Fellow Taoist, don't worry. After all, Goddess Nuwa is the Holy Mother of the humankind. There's no reason for her to not help when the humankind is in trouble. Seeing that Feng Zichen was still worried, the Water Dragon Revered Dragon thought that he was worried that Nuwa would not help, so he comforted him. Alright, we'll deal with whatever comes our way. Let's not talk about these disappointing things. The Dragon Revered Dragon has proven his Tao and Daluo Jingxian. We still have to celebrate. This is a little something from me. Please accept it. With that said, Feng Zichen took out the Chaos Stone that contained the mark of the Water Demon God and handed it to the Water Dragon Revered Dragon. What a pure great Tao of water. This aura. It's the Chaos Demon God. Looking at the chaos stone in Feng Zichen's hand and sensing the vast great Tao of water, the water dragon revered dragon exclaimed in disbelief. Yes, this is the mark of the water demon god. I got it from Pangu in the past. Feng Zichen nodded and explained. As for the origin of the mark of the chaos demon god, Feng Zichen had already thought of an excuse. Anyway, many people in the eldritch world already knew that he had obtained Pangu's inheritance. Thus, he simply pushed everything to Pangu's inheritance. After all, Pangu was so strong. No matter how ridiculous the matter was, as long as it was tied to him, it would be explainable. Moreover, Feng Zichen had obtained the mark of the demon god in Mount Buzhou. Thus, it could barely be considered a lie to be related to Pangu. Fellow Taoist, your encounters are really getting more and more enviable. The water dragon revered dragon looked at him enviously and said emotionally. Chapter 140. He could not remember how many times he had said envious words to Feng Zichen. It seemed that every time they met, Feng Zichen would bring him a new shock, making him envious. That was Pangu's inheritance. Apart from being the top inheritance of the primordial world, it also represented the most orthodox identity of the primordial world. Obtaining Pangu's inheritance was equivalent to obtaining Pangu's approval and enjoying his legacy. What an amazing opportunity! However, although this item was precious, it was not a connate spirit treasure and was unique in the world. Thinking about it, since Feng Zichen could give this item away, he must have a backup. Therefore, the water dragon accepted it and did not refuse. Since it's a gift from you, I'll accept it shamelessly. I have to thank you, fellow Taoist. This item is very important to me. After accepting the Chaos Origin Stone, the revered water dragon thanked him. Revered dragon, you're being too courteous. If you really want to thank me, then help me take care of the 7 Luminaries Prefecture. I'll be very grateful. Thinking of the 7 Luminaries Prefecture, Feng Zichen couldn't help but plan for it. The 7 Planets Prefecture was located in the East Sea and was adjacent to the Water Clan. As a race that came from the land, the humans would inevitably be ostracized by the Water Clan. If a Daluo Jinxian of the Dragon Clan appeared to take care of the humans, the Water Clan would not dare to make things difficult for the humans no matter how arrogant they were. What are you talking about, fellow Taoist? The Dragon Clan and the humans are allies. Even without this item, we will still protect the 7 Planets Prefecture. Fellow Taoist, don't worry. His Majesty the Ancestral Dragon once ordered that the humans will be treated the same as the Water Clan in the East Sea. There will be no difference. Feng Zichen repeatedly mentioned the 7 Planets Prefecture. The Water Dragon Sovereign thought that he was worried that the people of the 7 Planets Prefecture would be wronged in the East Sea, so he hurriedly guaranteed. It's good if that's the case. Feng Zichen only smiled and did not say anything. If Yu had not returned to the human clan to complain, he would not have known that the human clan situation in the East Sea was so difficult. Feng Zichen had always thought that with the Ancestral Dragon's orders, the people of the 7 Planets Prefecture would live peacefully in the East Sea. Unfortunately, he was wrong. With the Ancestor Dragon's order, although the waterkind people were pushing out the humankind, they didn't dare to go too far. But it was different for the Dragon Clan was different. The Dragon Whelps came to the 7 Lights continent for fun or out of curiosity. They didn't need to do anything, and a storm would come, causing everyone to suffer. Was not only that, their actions had caused trouble for the humans, the human clan was too weak. In the end, the human race was still too weak. They could only rely on the name of the dragon race to stand above the East Sea. Living under someone else's roof and relying on someone else's breath, how could the human experts attack these young dragons? They could only endure it. Of course, Feng Zichen believed that the Water Dragon Sovereign might not know about this. After all, he was a high-ranking member of the Dragon Clan. Why would he pay attention to the small 7 Planets Prefecture? Seeing that Feng Zichen did not relax after hearing his words and instead revealed an inexplicable expression, how could the Water Dragon revered dragon not understand that there was a problem in the 7 Luminaries province and that someone had come to complain? Fellow Taoist, is there something wrong with the 7 Planets Prefecture? Fellow Taoist, please tell us. No matter who dares to cause trouble, we will not tolerate it, the Water Dragon Sovereign said immediately, afraid of hurting the harmony between the two clans. It's just a small matter. Dragon Sovereign, you don't have to worry too much about it. Just keep an eye on it when you have nothing to do. I still have something to see His Majesty the Ancestral Dragon, so I'll take my leave first. With that, Feng Zichen bowed and flew toward the Ancestral Dragon Shrine. Sigh, fellow Taoist. The Water Dragon Sovereign wanted to say something, but seeing that Feng Zichen had left without looking back, he could only sigh helplessly and swallow his words. After waiting quietly for a moment, the Water Dragon Sovereign released his divine sense and looked toward the Seven Planets Prefecture. Since he had said so, it was obvious that there was a problem with the Seven Planets Prefecture. If he did not go and take a look, it would hurt their relationship. Near the Seven Planets Prefecture, a few young dragons were surrounding dozens of fishing boats and swimming around. From time to time, they would spit out violent winds and rain, blowing the fishing boats around. Seeing that everyone on the boat was in a mess, these young dragons seemed to be very satisfied with what they had done. They all looked excited and did not care about the life and death of the people on the boat. Bastards! Who gave you the guts to cause trouble here? At this moment, the Water Dragon Sovereign's divine sense happened to sweep over and saw this scene. He could not help but be furious. He immediately roared and stretched out a dragon claw to grab the young dragons below. No wonder Feng Zichen could not say it directly. This matter involved his own juniors, so it was not appropriate to say anything. Instead, it was better to let him come over personally and make a decision on how to deal with it. Ah, yes, Supreme One. Supreme One, please calm down. We were wrong. We won't dare to do it again. The dragon whelps were stunned for a moment when they were suddenly pulled out from the sea. Then, they sensed the vast and boundless divine power and immediately recalled the ancestral dragon's order. They all revealed a fearful expression and apologized to the sky. You're right. Humph. Wrong? Why didn't I see it? However, to cause trouble and stir up trouble, I see that you are quite capable. What's the point of bullying the human race here? It just so happens that I recently received news that a new batch of ferocious beast cubs have been born in the abyss. Why don't you go and compete with them and see if the dragon power of my dragon clan is stronger or if the ferocious beast is stronger? The Water Dragon Sovereign was really angry. Amidst the terrified cries of the young dragons, he directly threw them into the deep sea abyss. There were many experts of the dragon clan guarding the abyss. They would not be in any danger if they went, but they would inevitably lose a layer of skin and suffer a lot. With another wave of his hand, the Water Dragon Sovereign righted the boat and saved the humans who fell into the water. The Water Dragon Sovereign coldly glanced at the nearby sea area before withdrawing his divine consciousness and leaving. After the Water Dragon Sovereign was far away, the experts of the sea tribe around the Seven Planets province finally relaxed and heaved a long sigh of relief. The appearance of the dragon clan's Daluo Jinxian gave them too much pressure. Recalling the warning look of the Water Dragon Sovereign before he left, many of the experts of the sea tribe could not help but shudder. They looked at the Seven Planets province with slight fear, but they dispelled the bad thoughts in their hearts. Some of the sea tribe even planned to build a good relationship with the human race and interact more with the Water Dragon Sovereign. In the East Sea, the dragon clan was the truth, not to mention the dragon clan's Daluo Jinxian. In the distance, Feng Zichen sensed what happened in the Seven Planets province and could not help but smile knowingly. The Water Dragon Sovereign had caused such a big commotion. It was obviously for him to see. Although it was suspected of putting on a show, he had achieved his goal and there was no need to investigate further. The dragon clan could even punish their own disciples for the sake of the human race, let alone the people of the sea tribe. After this incident, the status of the human race in the East Sea would soar and it would save them a lot of trouble. Chapter 141. Greetings, Your Majesty, from the Zichen clan. Feng Zichen said to the statue as he walked into the divine palace. Zichen clan, even if you didn't come to me, I would have sent someone to ask you to come here. The ancestral dragon's divine thought descended from the statue. Suddenly, the innate Imu Chi filled the divine palace and filled it with vitality. A majestic emperor's chi spread out and shocked everyone. "What can I do for you, your majesty?" Feng Zichen asked with some doubts. It must be something important for the ancestral dragon to look for him on his own initiative. "Zichen clan, I'll ask you again. Are you willing to join the dragon tribe?" After a moment of silence, the ancestral dragon didn't answer his question. "Thank you, your majesty. Zichen hasn't changed his mind." "I'm sorry to disappoint you, your majesty." Feng Zichen refused without hesitation. "Do you know that you'll definitely die in the future tribulation of the human tribe? No one can save you. Are you still unwilling to join the dragon tribe?" The ancestral dragon lowered his eyes and looked at him quietly, waiting for his answer. At the ancestral dragon's realm, he could already see the future vaguely. Coupled with the tribulation that Feng Zichen mentioned not long ago, he naturally realized the tribulation that the human tribe would face in the future. Even though he couldn't see who was behind the tribulation, there were only a few forces in the untainted land that didn't fear the saints. He could guess who it was. However, there was one thing that puzzled the ancestral dragon. The Wu tribe, the demon tribe, and the human tribe were all in the tribulation. Their perception was blinded by the way of heaven, so they couldn't sense any information about the tribulation. But how did Feng Zichen find out? Even the ancestral dragon himself only found a clue about the tribulation of the human tribe in the future because of Feng Zichen's hint. But that was puzzling. However, the ancestral dragon didn't ask. Everyone had their own secrets. There was no need to dig into them as long as they didn't threaten others. "Zichen is not talented, but as the leader of the humankind, I am willing to live and die with the humankind." Knowing that he wouldn't die, Feng Zichen said confidently. "Sigh. What a pity." He sighed as if he was feeling sorry for Feng Zichen. A green light flew out of ancestral Gragon's body and entered his body. "I'll give you this innate wood elemental essence to help you cultivate the 5 energies in your chest." Boom! As soon as the azure light entered his body, Feng Zichen's body emitted a dazzling azure light. Dense innate wood chi burst out and surged in all directions. At his liver area, a wisp of green chi appeared. It was extremely condensed and occasionally transformed into a green dragon. It was very lifelike, as if it was real. This was the innate wood elemental chi. At this point, the wood elemental chi in his chest had been completely perfected. "Zichen will never forget your majesty's kindness." Feng Zichen thanked the ancestral dragon emotionally after calming down the restlessness in his body. Refining this innate wood elemental essence had saved him another 100,000 years of cultivation. He was one step closer to the Daluo Jinxian. "I see that you have reached the level of the Daluo Jinxian. It's just that the essence is too shallow to support your breakthrough. This innate wood elemental essence can increase your Dharma power by 100,000 years and greatly shorten the time you need to break through to the Daluo Jinxian." The ancestral dragon nodded slightly and said, "In your majesty's opinion, how many thousands of years of accumulation would it take for me to break through to the Daluo Jinxian?" Feng Zichen asked the ancestral dragon. Over the years, Feng Zichen felt that his body was like a big black hole. No matter how much innate essence he poured into it, it couldn't be filled up. He couldn't see any hope of breaking through to the Daluo Jinxian. Even with his state of mind, he couldn't help but feel anxious. Now that the ancestral dragon was in front of him, he should be able to see the problem with his strength. "You've only accumulated for 300,000 years. If you want to break through to the Daluo Jinxian, you'll need at least 1,000,000 years of accumulation. It's still early for you to break through," the ancestral dragon said with a smile after staring at Feng Zichen for a while. 700,000 years? So long. Hearing the ancestral dragon's words, Feng Zichen was shocked. Normally, 700,000 years wouldn't be too long. But now, time didn't wait for him. He didn't have 700,000 years to accumulate essence. "Your Majesty, can you teach me how to quickly accumulate essence? Judging from the current situation, the human tribe can't wait for 700,000 years." Feng Zichen asked the ancestral dragon anxiously. Having an elder in the family was like having a treasure. In the untainted land, this was not just a saying. They were extremely powerful and had lived long enough. Naturally, they knew some secrets that the later generations didn't know. In this aspect, Feng Zichen was lacking. Although he seemed to know everything, in fact, he didn't even know a lot of common sense. That's true. The ancestral dragon nodded and said, "You were born less than 100,000 years ago, but you've accumulated for 200,000 years. It can be seen that you've refined a lot of innate essence. Although this method is good, it's a bit of putting the cart before the horse. In the cultivation of Tai Jingxian, apart from comprehending the Great Tao, the most important thing is to cultivate the 5 qis in the chest. Only when the 5 qis are perfected and reach the realm of 5 qis collecting in mind can one be promoted to the Daluo Jingxian. Like you, no matter how much innate essence you've refined, the 5 qis in the chest can't be perfected. How can you break through to the Daluo Jingxian?" The ancestral dragon's words hit the nail on the head and pointed out Feng Zichen's shortcomings. It was obvious that he had put the cart before the horse. If this continued, it would be impossible for him to become a Daluo. 5 qis collecting in mind? Thinking of this, Feng Zichen bowed to the ancestral dragon and thanked him. "Thank you for your explanation, Your Majesty. Zichen understands." Having found a direction to move forward, Feng Zichen was undoubtedly relieved. He started by relying on the innate 5 elements qi. It was not difficult for him to reach the realm of 5 qis collecting in mind. In the future, he could look for the innate essence while cultivating the 5 qis in the chest. Zichen clan, after Shuai's coming of age ceremony, if you have nothing to do, you can go to the 4 clans to visit the vermilion bird, black tortoise, white tiger, and Qilin. In this way, you can ask for a group of innate 5 elements origin from each of them. In this way, not only can you reach the realm of 5 qis collecting in mind in advance, but it can also save you 400,000 years of hard work and speed up your steps to become a Daluo Jingxian. After a while, the ancestral dragon seemed to have thought of something and said to Feng Zichen, "Thank you, Your Majesty. Zichen understands." Feng Zichen nodded and thanked him. "By the way, Your Majesty, this is the mark of the Chaos Demon God that I obtained from the inheritance of the great Taoist priests. It may be useful to you." After talking for so long, Feng Zichen finally remembered the purpose of coming here. He took out the Chaos Stone and handed it over. As for the great Taoist priests, it referred to Pangu. According to the records of heaven and earth, Pangu was only in the realm of Daluo Jingxian. Of course, the people of the untainted land did not believe it. Which Daluo Jingxian could open up a world like the untainted land? No. Not to mention the Daluo Jingxian, even the sages could not do it. Chapter 142. However, that was how the world recorded it. Everyone had no choice but to call him the great Taoist priests to show the difference between Pangu and the other Taoist priests. Great meant great, number 1, indescribable, unexplainable. The great Taoist priests referred to the great Taoist priests. This honorific meant that all Taoist priests were inferior to Pangu. Not bad. You are thoughtful. Ancestral Gragon said to Feng Zichen. His expression changed slightly as he took the primal chaos origin stone. Boom! Just as Feng Zichen was about to say goodbye, a buzzing sound came from the heavens and earth. Then, a loud voice, accompanied by shocking killing intent, resounded through the entire eldritch wilderness. In the name of the heavenly way, the poor way's master of the blood sea, Mingi Taoist, feels that the Ashura tribe's cultivation is not easy and does not understand the heavenly way. He specially established a sect called Ashura. In the Ashura tribe, the men often stir up trouble and are brave and ruthless. The women often confuse the masses and make it difficult for them to cultivate. The poor way established the Ashura sect, enlightening them and teaching them the Tao of massacre. They will dominate the killing intent of the heavens and earth. They will kill with killing and bring peace to the eldritch wilderness. All members of the Ashura tribe can join the sect. With the innate spiritual treasure grade 12 red karmic fire lotus, the heavenly way as the witness, the Ashura sect is established. Rumble. Suddenly, golden flowers fell from the sky and golden lotuses bloomed from the ground within the blood sea. Sacred chi filled the air and suppressed the evil blood chi that had gathered in the blood sea for countless years, causing the blood sea to have a hint of auspicious chi. In the sky above the sea of blood, auspicious clouds stretched for thousands of miles. Golden light shone brightly, and there was the aura of black and yellow merit rolling over. However, compared to the merit of a saint, it was much less. It was only 20%. The chi of merit chi lingered in the air for a while before falling and entering Mingyi Taoist's body. Haha. The poor Wei's Tao has been established. Mingyi Taoist's aura rose as he laughed. The 3 flowers above his head shook and the 5 chi in his chest moved. In the blink of an eye, he had reached another level. Mingyi, can we succeed this time? Swish, terrifying gazes appeared and looked at the nether blood sea with anticipation. They were just waiting for the moment Taoist Mingyi succeeded. Then, they would immediately prepare to establish their sect. Naive. Without the Hongmeng purple chi, how can you become a saint? On Mount Kunlun, in the Jade Palace, the heavenly lord of the origin glanced at the Mingyi Taoist and then looked away, no longer paying attention to him. Obviously, he thought that Taoist Mingyi was destined to fail this time. Nuwa, the Grand Pure One, and the Grand Pure One were the same. Only the 2 saints, Zhuan-Ti, looked deeply at the 12th grade negative karma fire red lotus and pondered. No one knew what they were thinking. Slash. Mingyi Taoist suddenly spat out a word. The power of the way of the heavens descended, forming a Tao severing blade that slashed at him. The blade light fell. In an instant, an illusory figure walked out of Mingyi Taoist's body and merged with the 12th grade negative karma fire red lotus, turning into a Taoist in a blood-red robe. With the help of the chi of merit, Mingyi Taoist was completely immersed in the way of the heavens. He completely understood himself and created the 3rd corpse, self-corpse. At the same time, the chi of merit that poured into his body slowly disappeared. It was not enough for him to enter a higher level. Ah! The way of the heavens is unfair. Teacher is unfair. When he came back to his senses, he saw that he was stuck in front of the saint realm and could not advance. Mingyi Taoist was filled with hatred and could not help but roar, why can the Nuwa create a person to become a saint, but the poor Wei can't? Why can the 3 pure ones establish a sect to become a saint, but the poor Wei can't? Why can the likes of Zhuan-Ti become a saint, but the poor Wei can't? Bastard, Mingyi, how dare you? Hearing Mingyi Taoist's curses on Mount Meru, Taoist Zhuan-Ti jumped up. He could not wait to run to the nether blood sea and tear Mingyi apart. If Zhuan-Ti had not pulled him back, he would have already appeared beside Mingyi. Senior brother, why did you stop the poor Wei? Zhuan-Ti looked at Zhuan-Ti beside him and asked indignantly. Junior brother, Mingyi has spoken rudely and has his own retribution. However, he has established the Azura sect and wants to glorify the way of slaughter. It can be said that he has gathered the killing fate of the world. If we attack him now, I'm afraid it will damage the fate of the Western sect. Let's wait for his fate to fade and then we will give him retribution, Zhuan-Ti said as he let go of Zhuan-Ti's hand. Senior brother, you have considered everything. Now that the Western sect has just been established, we have gathered some fate with great difficulty. However, we can't withstand the slightest torment. The poor Wei was reckless. After hearing Zhuan-Ti's explanation, Taoist Zhuan-Ti calmed down. It's okay. Mingyi cursed the way of heaven. I think he will suffer a little. He can help us vent our anger, Zhuan-Ti said as he pointed to the sky. Indeed, as soon as Zhuan-Ti finished speaking, a bolt of divine thunder of destruction suddenly descended from the sky and struck Taoist Mingyi. Although it did not cause him much harm, it struck him until his entire body was black and he lost a lot of face. Humph. Taoist Mingyi snorted coldly and called back his self-corpse. He turned around and returned to the depths of the blood sea, disappearing. Is it really impossible to become a saint without the Hongmeng purple chi? Seeing that the Nether River had failed to prove his Tao again, the hearts of many mighty figures could not help but sink. Could it be that their future was really cut off? At the same time, they felt that Mingi's words made sense. The three pure ones were formed by Pengu's essence soul and were heavenly Tao saints. Everyone had nothing to say. Nuwa had great merit. No one in the primordial world could compare to her Tao of creation. Everyone had nothing to say about her becoming a saint. However, what right did the two from the Western sect have? In terms of aptitude, the two of them were only first-rate, inferior to Tai, the three pure ones, and the others. In terms of strength, the two of them were only mid-tier, inferior to top-notch Khanate saints. In terms of opportunities, the two of them were far inferior. Moreover, the two of them came from the barren land in the west. The Khanate god-fiends from the east despised them. Therefore, how could everyone be convinced that the two of them had become saints? Teacher, seriously. There are countless experts in the east. Can't you pick out two saints? Why did you have to let two people from the west steal the position of saints? Everyone complained in their hearts. They retracted their gazes and continued to be silent. On the other hand, Patriarch Kun Peng in the North Sea Demon Palace rolled his eyes and rushed towards the Netherworld Blood Sea. East Ocean, Ancestral Dragon Palace. This Taoist Mingi is really interesting. Pointing at the Netherworld Blood Sea, the Ancestral Dragon said with a smile, not to mention that he can't become a saint without the Hongmeng Purple Chi, he can't become a saint because he made two mistakes in a row. From the meaning of the Ancestral Dragon's words, he seemed to know the key to Mingi's failure. Therefore, Feng Zichen asked curiously, I wonder if your majesty can tell me in detail? After thinking for a while, the Ancestral Dragon said, Nuwa created the human race and created postnatal living beings in addition to the Khanate lifeforms. It added countless possibilities for the future of the primordial world and accelerated the evolution of the heavenly Tao. Chapter 143. Such a meritorious act made the way of heaven bestow boundless merit to help Nuwa become a saint. Seeing that Nuwa became a saint by creating humans, Mingi didn't know the truth and thought that the stronger the race he created, the better. So, he created the Azura race, a congenital race that was stronger than the human race. He thought that he could become a saint with this. But he didn't think that the human race was completely different from the congenital living beings. They were born weak, which formed a sharp contrast with the congenital living beings. The cycle of life, old age, sickness, and death that it possesses allows the heavenly Tao to constantly perfect itself. It could be said that the appearance of the human race had an epoch-making significance. And the Azura race, other than replenishing the vitality of the Blood Sea, what benefits did it bring to the way of heaven? With this, what could Mingi do to gather enough merit to become a saint? Today, he established the Azura sect, which is even more laughable. The three pure ones established the sect to educate all living beings in the untainted land, but they couldn't gather enough merit to become a saint. They still relied on the congenital merit in their bodies to become a saint. Zhuan Ti had to make 48 great wishes in order to accumulate enough merit to become a saint. Mingi established the Azura sect just to educate the Azura race and treat all living beings in the untainted land as nothing. So, how could he become a saint? If he could gather enough merit to become a saint, wouldn't the three pure ones and Zhundi become a joke? Speaking of this, Ancestral Gragon's tone suddenly changed. He praised Mingi Taoist, however, after doing these two deeds of great merit, Mingi's strength has greatly improved. There are not many below the sage realm who can defeat him. Moreover, with such great merit, as long as Mingi doesn't do anything wrong in the future, he will be able to enjoy boundless luck. From then on, he will be free and unfettered. Thank you, Your Majesty. After hearing so much from the Ancestral Gragon, Feng Zichen solved many doubts in his heart. He didn't expect the birth of the human race to have such a far-reaching impact. He had thought that Nuwa had become a saint by virtue of creating humans and being the first to create life in the primordial world. Alright, if there's nothing else, you can leave. Ancestral Gragon waved his hand and dismissed the guest. Then, Your Majesty, I'll take my leave. Feng Zichen bowed to the Ancestral Gragon and turned to leave. He had gained a lot from his conversation with the Ancestral Dragon today. Not only did he find the shortcut to attaining the Tao of Daluo Jingxian, but he also learned many secrets of the world. After exiting the ancestral dragon's sacred palace, Feng Zichen dived straight into the water and headed towards Ao Shue's palace. Ao Shue, this is for you. I specially prepared this gift for you to celebrate your coming of age. Take a look. Do you like it? Taking out the cleansing lotus seed, Feng Zichen said to the peerless beauty before him. This person's shoulders seemed to have been cut, and his waist seemed to have been cut. She stretched her neck, revealing her white skin. Her robe was dazzling, and her jade-green jade was magnificent. Her jewelry was adorned with pearls to illuminate her body. She was Ao Shue. She was no longer the little girl from back then. She had completely grown up. She was devastatingly beautiful with her bright eyes and white teeth. Feng Zichen couldn't help but feel dazzled. This is... Sensing the powerful origin of the lotus seed, Ao Shue couldn't help but change her expression. She hurriedly said, Zichen, this is too precious. I can't accept it. It's all right. We've known each other for so long, but I've never given you a proper gift. Since it's your coming of age ceremony, I've meticulously prepared this gift to make it up to you. What's more, with our relationship, what's an external object to me? As he spoke, Feng Zichen pulled Ao Shue's hand and forced the lotus seed into her hand. All right then, I'll accept it. Seeing Feng Zichen's firm attitude, Ao Shue hesitated for a moment before accepting the lotus seed. By the way, Zichen, the last few times you came to the Eastern Sea, you came and went in a hurry. You didn't have time to take a good look around the Dragon Palace. Now that you're free, I'll show you around the Dragon Palace. After accepting the gift, Ao Shue was obviously happier. She held Feng Zichen's arm and wanted to show him around the Dragon Palace. Feng Zichen originally planned to leave after giving the gift and visit the other 5 elemental sacred beasts. But seeing how happy Ao Shue was, he didn't have the heart to refuse. After thinking about it, he indeed hadn't spoken to Ao Shue for a long time. Touring the Dragon Palace with her would only delay him for a few hundred years. No matter how anxious Daluo was to prove his Tao, a few hundred years wouldn't make a difference. Thus, he smiled and said, all right. I've been to the Eastern Sea so many times, but I've never walked around the Dragon Palace. You have to show me around. All right, then I'll take you to my palace. Nodding happily, Ao Shue held Feng Zichen's arm and flew towards a group of palaces. Just like that, Feng Zichen accompanied Ao Shue around the Eastern Sea for 300 years. Today, they arrived near the 7 luminary state. You humans are really strange. You're so weak, but you have such incredible creativity. You can create all kinds of tools. Looking at the people below using all kinds of tools to hunt, Ao Shue sighed. It's because you're weak that sparks of wisdom are born under the pressure of survival. If humans were as strong as the dragon race, it wouldn't be so troublesome. We have to rely on all kinds of tools to catch a prey. As the saying goes, poverty leads to change, and change leads to success. Under the pressure of extreme environments, the races that didn't change had all died out. Although humans were weak, they had adapted to all kinds of harsh environments with their strong adaptability. Gradually, they stood out in the wilderness. That's true. The dragon race is naturally strong. If they want to hunt, they can just kill them directly. They don't need any tools. Thinking about the dragon race's situation, Ao Shue agreed. Freeze. After looking around the 7 luminary state, Feng Zichen waved his sleeve. Majestic magic power surged out and froze the spacetime within a radius of millions of miles. Then, he moved 5 giant islands from other parts of the Eastern Sea. The size of each island was bigger than any other state in the 7 luminary state. Rumble. The 5 giant islands suddenly landed on the sea. The area within a radius of millions of miles shook violently, setting off boundless waves. The sound of the waves was deafening. Fortunately, the living beings here had been protected in advance by Feng Zichen. Otherwise, who knew how many living beings would have died after this? What's going on? Who's so bold to cause trouble in the Eastern Sea? Such a big commotion instantly attracted the attention of many dragon race experts. They all looked toward the 7 luminary state. So it's him. The Zichin clan of the human race. When they saw Feng Zichin, they knew that he was favored by the ancestral dragon. He could be considered half a member of the dragon race. He wasn't an outsider who had come to cause trouble. They nodded to acknowledge him. Then, they all looked away and no longer paid attention to this place, allowing him to do whatever he wanted. Chapter 144. Suppress. Feng Zichin made a hand seal and activated the earth veins in the deep sea, connecting them to the 12 giant islands on the surface of the sea. Rumble. Turbid chi from the ground gushed out as the essences of the 12 islands joined together, forming a single entity. A vast suppressive force swept out in all directions, forcefully suppressing the surface of the ocean within a radius of 10 million kilometers. In an instant, the waves stopped and the surface of the sea regained its calm. Then, Feng Zichin took out the chaos bead and pointed at the new 7 Lights province. The chaos bead suddenly flew into the air above the 7 Lights province and bloomed with brilliant black light. Inside the chaos bead, under the world tree, the colorful lake suddenly rippled and surged upward. It rushed out of the chaos bead and into the outside world, turning into a rainbow-colored rain of light that rained down on the 7 Lights province. Rumble. White lightning flashed in Feng Zichin's hand and struck toward the 7 Lights province as he moved. It wasn't the myriad thunder, but the creation thunder from the depths of the thunder lock that could create all things. Under the effects of the rainbow-colored rain and the creation thunder, the scenery of the 7 Lights province changed drastically. The Khanate chi became denser, and Khanate spirit veins were born. The mountains were taller and more beautiful, the rivers were clearer and filled with spirit chi, spirit herbs grew everywhere, and the flowers and trees seemed to have a mind of their own as they breathed in Khanate chi. Everything was progressing in a good direction. Phew. With this, the 7 Lights province's future is bright and can be a path of retreat for the human race. Even with Feng Zichin's current strength, he couldn't help but gasp for breath after doing all this. What's going on? Why did the 7 Lights province change in the blink of an eye? Time and space resumed its flow once more. Yo-Yu Shi returned to his senses, and he couldn't help but exclaim involuntarily when he saw the 7 Lights province that had undergone a complete change. Elder Yo-Yu, there's no need to be surprised. I did it, Feng Zichin explained to Yo-Yu at this time. It's the clan leader. I knew it. Why would the powerful dragons suddenly punish those playful young dragons? So it's because of you, clan leader. Yo-Yu Shi muttered to himself and flew into the sky. This time, Feng Zichin came to the Eastern Sea to deal with some personal matters. Therefore, other than his 3 disciples, no one knew that he had left the human race, including the Yo-Yu clan. Elder Yo-Yu, I can see that the 7 Lights province is lacking in resources. I think that it is insufficient for everyone to use. Therefore, I refined it again to strengthen its origin and provide a better cultivation environment for my clansmen. Take a look and see if there's anything you're not satisfied with. Hurry up and tell me before I leave, and I'll change it for you. Smiling, Feng Zichin said to Yo-Yu Shi, who came to him. Satisfied, extremely satisfied. The current 7 planets prefecture is over 100 times better than before. With that being the case, how could I possibly be dissatisfied? However, looking at the 12 giant islands in front of him, Yo-Yu Shi said hesitantly, now that there are 12 islands, it's not appropriate to call it the 7 planets prefecture. It's fine. Whether it's 12 giant islands or 120 giant islands, this place will still be called the 7 planets prefecture. Waving his hand, Feng Zichin explained, the 7 planets prefecture has been called this for so many years. It has long been connected to the fate of the human race. It can't be changed just because you want to. Moreover, the 7 planets prefecture is the first human force to walk out of the ancestral land. It has epoch-making significance and can't be changed easily. Clan leader is right. Yo-Yu Shi didn't care about changing the name. He just felt that the 7 planets prefecture's current situation didn't live up to its name. However, Feng Zichin was right, so he naturally wouldn't insist. Since you're satisfied, I'll take my leave. If you have any difficulties in the future, you can go to the Water Dragon Hall to find the Water Dragon Sovereign. He is my good friend and can help you. With that, Feng Zichen cupped his hands at You Shui and left with Ao Shui. Ao Shui, it's time for me to go. Feng Zichen said to Ao Shui after traveling in the East Sea for another 3 years. Okay, be careful. Ao Shui said after staring at him for a while. Don't worry, I'm just going to visit Zhu Huang. Nothing will happen. Feng Zichen smiled and slowly disappeared as he rushed toward the southern part of the wilderness. Since the end of the ancient era, the Phoenix race had lived in seclusion in the undying volcano range in the south. There were volcanoes everywhere in that area, and it was where the fire veins of the wilderness gathered. Before the Phoenix race came, this place was a dangerous place in the wilderness. The undying volcano range would erupt from time to time, causing the entire southern part of the wilderness to be filled with connate fiery qi. Countless living beings suffered unspeakably. It was only when the Phoenix race came that they suppressed the undying volcano range with their own talent and power that the connate fiery qi that the southern part of the wilderness was reborn and became the holy land of the fire path. It was because of this great merit that the Phoenix race could be blessed after the ancient era, and they were known as the auspicious beasts. When he was about to step into the range of the undying volcano, Feng Zichen walked out of the void. He slowed down and flew at a low altitude, rushing toward the center of the undying volcano. Flying directly into the undying volcano from a high altitude would be suspected of looking down on the Phoenix race. Even if Zhu Huang did not care about it, his race might not. In order to avoid unnecessary trouble, Feng Zichen had better be careful. After all, flying at a low altitude was nothing to him. He was willing to do something that could save him a lot of trouble. The closer he got to the center of the undying volcano, the higher the temperature around him. Waves of heat hit him, causing Feng Zichen to frown. According to his estimation, even an ordinary golden immortal would not be able to bear the heat. If he walked for a few more days, even an ordinary Tai Jinxian would not be able to bear it. They are indeed the fire elves. The Phoenix race's talent in the fire path is unparalleled in the undying world, except for the Wu tribe of the Zhurong tribe. The terrible environment of the undying volcano made Feng Zichen speechless. Caw. Caw. Not long after he walked further in, he heard the sharp and pleasant chirping of birds. They were the rare prehistoric divine birds that appeared in front of him one after another. There was a divine bird that looked like a crane but had only one leg. Its body was blue with red spots and its beak was white. It was the divine bird by Feng. Strange flames appeared wherever it went. There was a divine bird that looked like a peacock, but its body was like a chicken. Its feathers were gorgeous, and there were many reddish yellow and white eye-shaped stripes on its wings. It was the divine bird Qinghuan. In addition, there was the four-eyed bird that was born with 2 pupils, the Xian bird that looked like a wild goose, and so on. Most of the famous divine birds in the undying world could be found here. After all, the Phoenix race was the leader of the bird race. It was not strange that so many divine birds gathered here. Just like the goal of the scale race was to turn into a dragon, the goal of the bird race was to turn into a phoenix. Chapter 145. How dare you? Who are you? How dare you trespass into the Phoenix clan's territory? As soon as Feng Zichen entered the heart of the undying volcano, he saw a golden-robed young man walk out from the front and shout at him. I am from the Zichen clan of the human clan. I am here to pay my respects to His Majesty Zhu Huang, Feng Zichen said politely to the golden-robed young man as he stopped in his tracks. You are from the Zichen clan of the human clan? The golden-robed young man's eyes lit up when he heard Feng Zichen introduce himself, and he hurriedly confirmed. That's right, I am. Do you know me? Feng Zichen frowned and asked doubtfully. Judging from the golden-robed young man's expression, he seemed to know him. Very good. I was just about to go to the human clan to look for you. I didn't expect you to come by yourself. You saved me a lot of trouble, the golden-robed young man laughed as he pointed at Feng Zichen. May I know why you came to the human clan to look for me? I don't seem to know you. Feng Zichen's tone turned cold as he looked at the golden-robed young man. He couldn't help but feel displeased when someone pointed at him. However, since this person came from the heart of the undying volcano, he must have a high status in the Phoenix clan. Out of respect for Zhu Huang, Feng Zichen didn't want to teach him a lesson. Fellow Daoist, I have something to ask His Majesty Zhu Huang for. I hope you can pass on the message. Feng Zichen said to the golden-robed young man, suppressing his dissatisfaction. There's no hurry. Let me see what you are capable of to earn my mother's praise, the golden rock said as he shook his head. Mother? Praise? What do you mean? Feng Zichen was confused when he heard the golden rock's words. TSK. Take this. Just as Feng Zichen was puzzled, the golden rock attacked. He shouted and summoned a torrential golden flame. With the power to burn heaven and earth, the flame burned toward Feng Zichen. What a powerful flame. Feng Zichen praised as he waved his hand to disperse the flames around him. The sudden rise in temperature around him made him feel a burning sensation, which showed the power of this flame. You are the golden-winged rock. At this moment, how could Feng Zichen not know who the other party was? It was the golden-winged rock that was born from the phoenix. So what if it's me? Come, let me see how strong you are. As it spoke, the golden rock increased the output of its magic power, and the surrounding golden flames immediately burned even brighter. All right, I'll show you. Feng Zichen replied with a smile. He pointed a finger at the sky, and immediately, a violent gust of wind and torrential rain poured down. It was the summoning wind and summoning rain. The wind was no ordinary wind, it was the nine heavens' astral wind. The rain was no ordinary water, it was the nine heavens' weak water. The violent wind whistled past, rolling up the golden flames. The torrential rain poured down and extinguished the golden flames. However, because of the golden rock's identity, Feng Zichen did not use the power of the destiny of the human race. Instead, he only used his own magic power to fight with it. Otherwise, Feng Zichen could take it down in one move. Humph. How dare you play with the wind in front of me? You're courting death. The golden rock snorted disdainfully. It shook its body and transformed into its original form. It was the golden-winged rock. It spread its wings and flew in the sky. It was like a cloud hanging from the sky, covering half of the sky. Beneath the wings, the aura of wind and clouds gathered and surged endlessly. Whoosh, the golden rock spread its wings and flapped them fiercely. In the whistling sound, an incomparably boundless nine heavens astral wind blew, cutting through the void. It was extremely terrifying. It broke the summoning wind and summoning rain in one move and attacked Feng Zichen directly. Great divine power, great technique. After praising, Feng Zichen waved his sleeve, and a majestic spiritual energy surged out, causing the wind to blow back. What kind of divine power is this? The golden rock was caught off guard and was hit by its own divine power. After it stabilized its body, it could not help but ask. This is called returning wind and returning fire. It can reverse the flow of all divine powers. It is the supreme divine power of the celestial sect. The two of them were only sparring and were not mortal enemies. Feng Zichen had nothing to hide. Divine power of the celestial sect. The golden rock nodded slightly and seemed to remember it. Then, a bright golden light burst out from its body. The golden feathers all over its body stood up and shot out a golden sword light toward Feng Zichen. Boring. Shaking his head, Feng Zichen felt a little bored. He reached out his right hand to grab the golden rock, intending to end this fight for no reason. Not to mention that he had several powerful divine powers that he could not use on the golden rock. The golden rock was only in the late stage of Tai Jingxian. How could it be a match for him? One had to know that even without the blessing of the human race, he was still a half-step Daluo Jingxian. He was about to prove his Dao. How could the golden rock compare to him? Feng Zichen's right hand was not big. Compared to the golden rock's body, it was like the difference between heaven and earth. However, under his grasp, it was as if the whole world was in his hand. One could see that the golden rock's body was shrinking and flying toward Feng Zichen's hand. It was not his body that was shrinking, but the void where he was in was caught by Feng Zichen. Damn it! Khanate Yin Yang Divine Light, break! Unable to break free, the golden rock was furious. It could not help but curse and use its strength. Black and white divine light emerged from its body. It was mysterious and unpredictable. It shattered the void and escaped from Feng Zichen's hand. Oh! Khanate Yin Yang Divine Light, I have underestimated you. Seeing the black and white divine light, Feng Zichen said in surprise. It made sense. Zhu Huang had been born for so long. How could he allow the golden rock to fool around and refine the Khanate Yin Yang divine qi into a broken bottle? Ha! Do you think you can escape? Feng Zichen chuckled. 5 qi gathered in his chest and turned into the great palm of 5 emperors. He continued to grab the golden rock. The 5 elements cycled and contained everything in the world. The yin-yang divine qi flowed endlessly and gave birth to everything in the world. The two collided. In the end, Feng Zichen had the upper hand. The great palm of 5 emperors crushed the Khanate yin-yang divine light and caught the golden rock in its hand. Suddenly, a handsome young man appeared and shouted at him, "Don't hurt my brother." Feng Zichen turned around and saw 5 divine lights rise from the young man's body. They were green, yellow, red, black, and white. With a whoosh, they swept toward him. Khanate 5-colored divine light. You are Kong Xian. Feng Zichen only had time to say this before his vision blurred and he was taken away by Kong Xian. Caught off guard, Feng Zichen was sucked into the world of 5 elements. He was not in a hurry. He stood there and looked around. At the same time, the Khanate Yang divine light flickered on his body and dispelled the dizziness. The Khanate 5-colored divine light is indeed extraordinary. After a while, Feng Zichen found the difference between him and Kong Xian. Kong Xian's Khanate 5-colored divine light was formed when the Khanate chaotic qi split into the 5 elements. Anything within the 5 elements would be restrained by it. Therefore, it could destroy anything within the 5 elements. Chapter 146. Feng Zichen's Khanate 5 elements divine light was condensed from the corpses of 5 Khanate 5 elements divine beasts. In essence, it was inferior to the Khanate 5 elements divine light. However, after many years of cultivation, the Khanate 5 elements divine light had been sublimated and had the ability to trace back to its origin. That is, within the 5 elements, this light can be traced back to its source, causing it to transform into its most primitive form. Of these 2 divine lights, one was for suppression and the other was for killing. Although they were both evolved from the Tao of the 5 elements, there was a world of difference between their owners' understanding of the Tao of the 5 elements. It's time to go out. After learning the information he wanted to know, Feng Zichen looked up and planned to leave. Open. As soon as he finished speaking, the qi of 3 talents emerged from his body and swept across the entire 5 elements world. In an instant, the order of heaven and earth was in chaos and the 5 elements were out of balance. Huge spatial cracks appeared. Rumble. In the huge roar, the 5 elements world completely collapsed and turned into the qi of the 5 elements. Feng Zichen took the opportunity to walk out. What? Seeing Feng Zichen break through the Khanate 5 elements divine light and walk out, Kong Xian's face was filled with disbelief. Since his birth, his Khanate 5 elements divine light had never been broken by anyone in the same realm. Today was the first time. Fellow cultivators, do you want to continue fighting? Feng Zichen said to the 2 of them with a smile. Greetings, fellow cultivator Zichen. Kong Xian also bowed and said apologetically, Please forgive me, fellow cultivator. My younger brother was rude. With that, Kong Xian pulled the golden rock in front of Feng Zichen and reprimanded, Second brother, hurry up and apologize to fellow cultivator. Seeing Kong Xian's stern expression, the golden rock reluctantly cupped his hands and said, Fellow cultivator, please forgive me. I was wrong. Before Feng Zichen could say anything, the Golden Rock's attitude had already angered Kong Xian. What kind of attitude is this? You've already thrown away the etiquette of the phoenix race. Do you really want Mother to personally come and teach you a lesson? Kong Xian berated as he pointed at the Golden Rock. My apologies. The Golden Rock was too rash. Please forgive me, fellow Taoist. Hearing Kong Xian mention Zhu Huang, Jin Peng's expression changed. He immediately stepped forward and apologized sincerely to Feng Zichen. It's all right. It's just a small matter. You don't have to take it to heart, fellow Taoist. The two of them humbled themselves, and Feng Zichen didn't want to make a fuss about it. It's good that you don't blame me, fellow Taoist. Seemingly relieved, Kong Xian continued. Mother already knows the purpose of your visit and specially sent me to receive you. Fellow Taoist, please follow me. Don't let Mother wait for too long. Of course. How can I let Her Majesty wait for me? Please lead the way, fellow Taoist. Feng Zichen nodded and said. Please. Kong Xian cupped his hands and turned around to fly towards the center of the undying volcano. Feng Zichen hurriedly followed him. Stepping into the center of the undying volcano, it was a different feeling. Waves of heat hit one after another, causing people to feel uncomfortable. Hiss. The temperature around him instantly increased, and it was even hotter than the golden flames released by the Golden Rock. It gave Feng Zichen a feeling that he was in the middle of the sun. This is only the periphery of the center of the undying volcano, and it's already so terrifying. If we go to the center of the undying volcano, will only Daluo Jingxian be able to live there for a long time? Looking at the surrounding heat waves that were distorting the void, Feng Zichen's eyelids twitched. The temperature here was already high enough to cause harm to ordinary Tai Jingxian. How terrifying would the temperature in the deepest part of the undying volcano be? He was afraid that if Tai Jingxian went in, he would be burned to ashes in an instant. However, he was wrong about this. The deepest part of the undying volcano was the habitat of the Phoenix clan. No matter how strong the Phoenix clan was, it was impossible for every member of their clan to be Daluo Jingxian. Therefore, the deepest part of the undying volcano had its own special features. Passing through a layer of colorful light curtain, Feng Zichen arrived at the deepest part of the undying volcano. The invading heat waves suddenly disappeared, and a cool breeze blew over, making him feel as if his whole body was transparent. That's the connate parasol tree. Suddenly, Feng Zichen's pupils shrank, and he exclaimed. As far as his eyes could see, there was a giant tree in the center of the undying volcano. Its canopy was so big that it covered the sky and the sun. The tree was covered with patterns of the Great Way, and there were wisps of connate fire origin chi hanging down. It was the supreme grade connate spiritual root, the connate parasol tree. It stood there quietly, suppressing all the undying volcano in the center, and not a trace of fire leaked out. It made the spirit chi in this place dense, and all living things grew. It was not inferior to a top grotto heaven. Seeing that Feng Zichen was a little stunned, Kong Xian pointed at the connate parasol tree and said to him, Brother, Mother is in that temple. We have to go and greet her quickly, so that she won't wait for too long. Following the direction of Kong Xian's finger, Feng Zichen saw a glorious temple. It was located at the top of the connate parasol tree, and it was surrounded by the scent of incense. It was incomparably majestic. He followed Kong Xian and flew up. Even with their strength, it took them dozens of days to reach the Zhu Huang temple, which showed how tall the connate parasol tree was. After straightening his clothes, Feng Zichen walked into the temple and said to the statue in the center of the temple, The Zichen clan of the human race greets your majesty. As soon as he finished speaking, a seven-colored light flashed on the statue, and a majestic divine will descended, as if it was going to fill the sky and the earth. It was extremely terrifying. Zichen clan member, I already know why you've come. Take this ball of natural fire quintessence. From the seven-colored light, a majestic voice sounded, and a ball of crimson light was injected into Feng Zichen's body. Rumble. From Feng Zichen's body, there was a sound like a landslide or a tsunami, and a crimson light bloomed. It was so dazzling that he looked like a burning flame. Screech. In the sharp screech, the crimson light on his body suddenly shrank, forming a vivid vermilion bird, circling around his heart and facing the azure dragon in his liver. "Thank you, Your Majesty." Feng Zichen stepped forward and thanked him happily. Refining this connate origin of fire had not only perfected the fire chi in his chest, but also saved him 100,000 years of cultivation. How could he not be happy? Back then, you imparted the acquired divine path and helped the 5 of us escape. I can't thank you enough. In the future, when the human race is in danger, although we can't protect the human race, it won't be difficult for the 5 of us to save you. After a while, a voice came from the 7-colored light again. Your Majesty, you are too serious. I imparted the acquired divine path only to ask Your Majesty to protect the human race. Other than that, Zichen wouldn't dare to ask for more. Feng Zichen originally thought that after the 5 element sacred beasts agreed to protect the human race, the karma had been settled. However, after the 5 element sacred beasts were freed, they still cared for him, which really made him feel flattered. Chapter 147. Mount Buzhou stood at the center of the untainted land, suppressing the past, present, and future. It was vast, majestic, sacred, and inviolable. After tens of thousands of years, Feng Zichen came to Mount Buzhou again, but his feelings were completely different. It had been 400 years since he had met the ancestral phoenix. After obtaining the origin of fire from Zhu Huang, he had been in seclusion under the connate parasol tree, comprehending the connate fire elemental Tao and stabilizing his realm. It was not until 300 years later that he came out of seclusion. Then, he bid farewell to Zhu Huang and spent another 100 years to come to Mount Buzhou, where the Kirin tribe lived in seclusion. Kirins were the leaders of the beasts and the overlords of the land. In the antiquity times, the whole untainted land was ruled by the Kirin tribe. Therefore, the Kirin tribe was naturally the best place in the untainted land. Besides Mount Buzhou, no other place dared to claim to be the best in the untainted land. If Mo Zhang hadn't told him where the Qilin clan lived before he left, no matter how Feng Zichen thought about it, he would never have guessed that the Qilin clan would place their nest right under the nose of the demon race. On Mount Buzhou was the Heaven Court. Standing in front of Mount Buzhou and sensing for a moment, Feng Zichen sighed and said, as expected, the power of Mount Buzhou is weakening. Under the erosion of the resentment of the chaos demon god, even the power of Mount Buzhou was gradually unable to withstand it. At this moment it was undoubtedly much weaker than when Feng Zichen first saw it. This was the result of the erosion of the resentment of the chaos demon god, which sowed the seed of disaster for its future collapse. Why think so much? If the sky really collapses, the saints who are closely related to the untainted land should be the most anxious. What does it have to do with me? Feng Zichen shook his head and laughed. For him, the most important thing was to find a way to survive the catastrophe of the human race. As for the collapse of Mount Buzhou, it was not the concern of an ant like him. Feng Zichen took out the scale plate that Mo Zhang had given him before he left. Then, he used a secret technique to inform Mo Zhang of his arrival and had him send someone to pick him up. There were countless secret realms in Mount Buzhou. Coupled with the protection of the Qilin clan's formation, Feng Zichen didn't think that he would be able to find the Qilin clan from the countless secret realms. Therefore, it was better to wait for someone to pick him up. Not long after, the space in front of him silently split open, forming a passageway that could only allow one person to pass through. Without hesitation, Feng Zichen walked in. Du Tian Divine Fiend, rise. As soon as he walked out of the passage, Feng Zichen let out a low growl. A purplish-black evil qi rose from his body and enveloped him. He remembered what had happened to him in the Phoenix clan, so he released the Du Tian Divine Fiend to scare the others to avoid trouble. The Du Tian Divine Fiend was the evil qi that accompanied Pangu. Normal Tai Jingxian would definitely die if they touched it. Even the Daluo Jingxian would be frightened if he saw it. It was extremely terrifying. If it weren't for a coincidence, Feng Zichen wouldn't have been able to cultivate it. Estikich, what kind of evil qi is that? Why do I feel that it's even stronger and more dangerous than the connate evil qi? Scary. So scary. In the dark, the members of the Qilin clan who wanted to test Feng Zichen's strength felt a chill down their spines when they saw the purplish-black evil qi. They felt that they would be drowned in it and die if they looked at it. My friend, please stop using your divine power. Your divine power is too powerful. The people nearby can't take it anymore. Seeing that many people were affected by the evil qi, Mo Zhang was worried about their safety. He smiled wryly and walked out of the void, shouting at Feng Zichen. Oh. I see. It is my fault for not thinking things through. Please forgive me, fellow Taoists. I'll withdraw my divine ability now. Feng Zichen gave Mo Zhang an embarrassed smile, then withdrew his great heaven divine fiend. My friend, you're too polite. If they didn't have bad intentions, they wouldn't have suffered this. They asked for it. You don't have to worry about it, Mo Zhang waved his hand and said. How could he not know what these clansmen hiding in the dark were thinking? They just wanted to test Feng Zichen's strength and see if he was as powerful as the Qilin ancestor said. Unfortunately, before they could do anything, they were scared speechless by Chen Fan's energy. This time, they were utterly humiliated. Mo Zhang bowed and said to Feng Zichen, my friend, please come with me. His Majesty asked me to bring you to the temple to see him. Then I'll have to trouble you, my friend. Feng Zichen nodded at Mo Zhang and followed him forward. This place was far away from the primordial world and was full of peace and harmony. Along the way, Feng Zichen saw many Qilin cubs playing and having a good time. However, perhaps because Feng Zichen's appearance was too fierce, he left a bad impression on these young Qilins. As a result, when they saw Feng Zichen walking over, they were frightened and ran in all directions, as if Feng Zichen was a fierce demon. When Mo Zhang saw this scene, he couldn't help but tease, haha. My friend, you're really famous in our Qilin tribe for being able to make children stop crying. However, as he spoke, he couldn't help but laugh. Haha. I'm dying of laughter. This. After being teased by Mo Zhang, Feng Zichen opened his mouth but couldn't say anything. He could only smile bitterly and remain silent. That's the yellow plum? After walking for a while, a big tree appeared in Feng Zichen's vision. The tree was only 10,000 feet tall, but it gave him the feeling that it covered the sky and the sun. Moreover, the tree was surrounded by chaotic vital energy. There were 9 fruits on the tree, and the words, yellow plum, were written on the fruits. Fellow Taoist, this tree's name is yellow middle plum because its flowers are shaped like lotus flowers and its fruits are shaped like pearl pistils. Above the flowers and fruits are the words, yellow middle, so we call it yellow middle plum. This tree blossoms once every 10,000 years, bears fruit once every 10,000 years, and ripens once every 10,000 years. It has only produced 81 fruits, which are extremely precious. If a sky immortal smells the flowers, he can gain 1,000 years of cultivation. If he's lucky enough to eat one of the fruits, he can instantly become a Tai Jingxian. This tree is a supreme-grade connate spiritual root, a supreme treasure that protects the fortune of our beast tribe. It's comparable to connate supreme treasures. Seeing the shock in Feng Zichen's eyes, Mo Zhang introduced proudly. In the ancient times, there were 3 supreme-grade connate spiritual roots, the connate divine wood, the connate parasol tree, and the connate yellow plum. They were each obtained by the 3 tribes to protect their tribe's fortune. That's right, this tree is extraordinary. Feng Zichen nodded in agreement. Connate spiritual roots were hard to find, let alone a supreme-grade connate spiritual root like the yellow plum. In some aspects, apart from offensive power, they were indeed not much inferior to connate supreme treasures. Chapter 148. Legend has it that during the ancient times, the yellow plum blossomed, bore fruit, and ripened in 1 yuanshi. There were only 9 fruits in 3 yuanshi. If a sky immortal smelled the fragrance of the flower, he would gain 10,000 years of cultivation. If a Tai Jingxian ate a fruit, he would become a Daluo. It was a supreme sacred item. Unfortunately, after the end of the ancient times, the fortunes of the 3 races declined. The yellow plum, as the guardian item of the beast race, suffered from the backlash of the fortune, which caused its origin to decline and its effect to decrease. Otherwise, the yellow plum wouldn't be so effective. Looking at the yellow plum, Mo Zhang said with melancholy. Daluo Jingxian? Hearing this, Feng Zichen couldn't help but click his tongue. How was a fruit different from a Dao fruit? The yellow plum that grew such a fruit could be called a Dao tree. However, despite his shock, Feng Zichen wasn't envious. He also had supreme-grade connate spiritual roots, and he had more than one. Not only that, his supreme-grade connate spiritual root's origin wasn't damaged. It was perfect. Moreover, he had a chaos spiritual root, which was far superior to supreme-grade connate spiritual roots, the world tree. In this way, it should be the Kirin clan envious of him, not him. It seems that my understanding of supreme-grade connate spiritual roots is far from enough. After I become a Daluo Jingxian, I need to study the connate star tree and see if there are any other functions that I don't know about. After learning about the effects of the yellow plum, Feng Zichen couldn't help but overturn his previous understanding of supreme-grade connate spiritual roots. He planned to go back and study them to see if there were any other functions that he hadn't discovered yet. Oh right, I wonder if the world tree can bloom and bear fruit. Even the fruit of the yellow plum has such powerful effects. If the world tree, which is even better than this one, can blossom and bear fruit, it must be even more extraordinary. Thinking of the world tree, Feng Zichen thought of another possibility. He couldn't help but get excited. If the world tree could bear fruit, he would be rich. Fellow Daoist, return to your senses. His Majesty is still waiting for us. We can't delay any longer. Mo Zhang came back to his senses. Seeing that Feng Zichen was also in a daze, he couldn't help laughing and quickly woke him up. It's my fault for forgetting myself. Let's go. After cupping his fists at Mo Zhang, the two of them quickened their pace and rushed towards the Qilin temple. Walking into the temple, Zhu Lin's incarnation had been waiting for a long time. Now, he was looking at Feng Zichen in surprise. Zichen clan of the human race greets your majesty. Seeing Zhu Lin's incarnation, Feng Zichen hurriedly bowed. Du Tian divine fiend? Did you use the great heaven divine fiend from Pangu the great Tao? Ancestral Phoenix asked Feng Zichen after waving her hand, indicating that there was no need for formalities. That's right. When I was traveling in Mount Buzhou in my early years, I was fortunate enough to be favored by the great god Pangu and was fortunate enough to obtain part of the great god's inheritance. This Du Tian divine fiend is one of them, Feng Zichen stood up and replied. Since he had already used the Du Tian divine fiend, he had no intention of hiding it. After all, Pangu's inheritance was just a box that could fit anything. Your Majesty, this item is engraved with the mark of the Chaos Demon God. It might be useful to you. Please accept it. Feng Zichen took out the Chaos Vitality Stone and said to Zhu Lin. Sensing the vast and noble aura, Zhu Lin was in a daze. Endless thoughts came to his mind. He couldn't help but reach out and take the Chaos Vitality Stone. You're really lucky. This item is indeed useful to me. I'll accept it. Zhu Lin was obviously happier after accepting the Chaos Vitality Stone. The voice in his body continued, take this ball of innate earth elemental origin. I won't be able to help you much in the future calamity of the human race. Use this item as a token of my appreciation. While speaking, Zhu Lin waved his hand and shot out a yellow light. It circled in the air and flew into Feng Zichen's body. Rumble. Divine light bloomed, and innate earth elemental qi filled the air. In Feng Zichen's spleen, a beam of yellow light gradually solidified and turned into a qilin. It was majestic, resonating with the azure dragon and vermilion bird. Thank you for your help, Your Majesty. The earth element qi was complete. 3 out of the 5 qi in his chest had been formed. He was one step closer to the Daluo Jingxian. Feng Zichen was overjoyed. No worries. Shaking his head, Zhu Lin said to Mo Zhang, go and get 9 yellow plums. Give them to the Zichen clan and let him bring them back to the human race. This is a gift from the Qilin clan to the human race. Without waiting for Feng Zichen's response, Zhu Lin dispersed this incarnation and returned to his body to study the mark of the demon god. Your Majesty, Feng Zichen had just opened his mouth when he saw Zhu Lin disperse his incarnation. He had no choice but to swallow his words. I'm going to pick the yellow plums. Do you want to come with me? Mo Zhang walked up and asked. Of course. The supreme grade connate spiritual root is known as the Tao tree. It has unparalleled mysteries. Just one look at it is a great opportunity. Of course, I won't miss it. Feng Zichen smiled and followed Mo Zhang to the yellow plums. Not long after, the two arrived at a place shrouded in chaotic yuan qi. The yellow plums grew in the center of this place. Through the gaps in the chaotic yuan qi, they could vaguely see the figure of a big tree. This place is filled with chaotic yuan qi. Those who don't belong to the Qilin clan will be shredded into pieces by the chaotic yuan qi in an instant. So, please wait here for a moment. I will go and pick the yellow plums for you. Stopping Feng Zichen, Mo Zhang pointed at the chaotic yuan qi in front of them and explained with a troubled expression. I understand. I understand. Feng Zichen nodded and expressed his understanding. Anyone who obtains such a precious treasure would set up layers of protection to avoid accidents. Even he, after transplanting the connate star tree into Zichen's cave, hid it in the deepest part of the void. He didn't dare to show it in front of others because it was too late for regrets if an accident happened. Thank you for your understanding. With an apologetic smile, Mo Zhang brought Feng Zichen to a mountain peak and said with a smile, My friend, thank you for your understanding. Don't you want to see the yellow plums? This place is just right for you to see the whole picture. It was created by His Majesty himself for the cultivation of the Qilin clan. Standing on the mountain peak, Feng Zichen looked ahead. As far as his eyes could see, there was a tree tens of thousands of feet tall. Its branches and leaves swayed in the wind, exuding a powerful aura that connected heaven and earth. It was vast and boundless. Then, thank you very much. Looking at the tree in front of him, Feng Zichen expressed his gratitude. Don't mention it. I'll go now. Mo Zhang clasped his hands and walked toward the yellow plums. After Mo Zhang walked away, in Feng Zichen's mind, the Hongmeng Daozhong trembled slightly and emitted a mysterious wave, helping him to immerse himself in the Tao enlightenment and feel the Tao rhythm of the yellow plums. At the same time, while Feng Zichen was comprehending the Tao, the Hongmeng Daozhong was not idle. Gradually, the shadow of a tree appeared on its body. It was the yellow plums. It was the Hongmeng Daozhong that had imprinted its shadow. Chapter 149. Enlightenment? I've only left for a while, and he's already in enlightenment. That's too fast. After a while, Mo Zhang picked 9 yellow plums from the tree and returned. Seeing the Taoist rhyme flowing around Feng Zichen, who was obviously immersed in the great Tao, Mo Zhang could not help but whisper. Sigh. As expected of the talent that His Majesty always talks about. He's far better than us. Sighing, Mo Zhang silently retreated to the side to protect Feng Zichen from being disturbed by outsiders. Phew. 200 years later, Feng Zichen let out a long breath and woke up from enlightenment. He slowly opened his eyes. Standing up, Feng Zichen straightened his clothes, stepped forward, and thanked Mo Zhang. Thank you, fellow Taoist, for protecting me. No problem. Smiling, Mo Zhang took out the yellow plum and handed it to Feng Zichen, saying, My friend, this is the yellow plum that His Majesty asked me to give you. Please keep it well. Thank you. Since it's a gift from my ancestor, I won't stand on ceremony. The yellow plum was the size of a fist and shaped like a pearl stamen. It emitted a tempting fragrance and had an inexplicable temptation. Feng Zichen's appetite was aroused. However, this item was of great use to the human race. It could create 9 primordial unity golden immortals for the human race. He could not swallow it just because of his appetite. That would be too much of a waste. Suddenly, Feng Zichen thought of something. He quickly passed on the effects and characteristics of the yellow plum to Xianqing, who was far away in Kunlun Mountain. The grand pure sage was the best alchemist in the untainted land. As his descendant, Xian Qing couldn't waste this kind of resource. Maybe he could ask him to see if he could use the yellow plum as the main ingredient to develop a kind of elixir so that the value of the yellow plum could be maximized. Fellow Daoist, now that this matter is settled, I should take my leave. I have to go to the North Sea to visit His Majesty Black Tortoise, so I can't stay here for long. After accepting the yellow middle plum, Feng Zichen cupped his hands and bid farewell to Mo Zhang. Fellow Daoist, you have matters to attend to, so I won't ask you to stay. Let me send you out. The Kirin clan was hidden very well. Without Mo Zhang leading the way, Feng Zichen might not be able to get out. After leaving the Kirin tribe's secluded place, Feng Zichen spent another 100 years to walk out of Mount Buzhou. No one would have thought that such a powerful Mount Buzhou would be destroyed by Gongong in the future. Looking back at Mount Buzhou again, Feng Zichen used the Daluo's privilege to travel outside of time and space and rushed to the North Sea. Mount Buzhou suppressed everything. Feng Zichen didn't know if the sage could teleport near it, but the Daluo Jingxian certainly couldn't, let alone him. Outside the spacetime, time stood still and the void stood still. Nothing existed. Only Feng Zichen's figure was hurrying toward the northernmost sea. However, just as Feng Zichen passed by a certain place, 5 powerful auras suddenly surged out and fiercely collided with each other. This caused the space and time there to violently tremble, distort, and become chaotic. It was a terrifying sight. This is 5 great overarching golden celestials are fighting. Feng Zichen was shocked and quickly stopped in his tracks. No, why are there 2 Daluo Jinxian's auras? They give me a faint sense of familiarity, but when did I know 2 Daluo Jingxian? After carefully sensing for a while, Feng Zichen found that among the 5 auras, he seemed to have seen 2 of them before, but he couldn't remember them for a while. Forget it, I don't want to think about it. It's definitely not someone important. Otherwise, why can't I remember? Frowning and thinking, Feng Zichen couldn't think of anything, so he simply stopped thinking about it. He didn't want to cause more trouble, so he turned around and rushed to another place, intending to bypass this place. Something that could cause 5 Daluo Jingxian to fight was definitely not an ordinary matter. He was a fake Daluo, so it was better for him not to poke his nose into other people's business, lest he didn't get any benefits and get himself into trouble. However, before he could go far, the Daluo Jingxian in front of him seemed to be angry, and their attacks became more violent. Supreme Daoist rhymes filled the air, and rays of light penetrated the past, illuminating the future, and shot out of time and space. Under the influence of this power, time and space began to collapse on a large scale, forming a huge spacetime storm, and forced Feng Zichen out of time and space. Oh no! Chaos bead, suppress! As soon as he walked out of time and space, Feng Zichen found that something was wrong. There were 5 divine powers with terrifying power, and they blasted directly toward him. Without thinking too much, he roared in his heart and immediately called out the chaos bead. Strands of black light hung down and shrouded him, protecting him. At the same time, the chaos bead shone brightly, and chaotic Daoist patterns filled the air, freezing the surrounding time and space, and setting up layers of obstacles to weaken the power of the 5 divine powers. Boom! Amidst 5 earth-shattering sounds, the 5 divine powers were mighty, and they carried an aura that could sweep through everything. They destroyed time and space in all directions, and they blasted on the light screen hanging down from the chaos bead, causing it to shatter inch by inch. Seeing the light screen shattering continuously, Feng Zichen's expression turned serious. He mobilized all the dermic powers in his body and poured all of them into the chaos bead. At the same time, his figure flashed and hid in the chaos bead. Buzz! After trembling for a moment, the chaos bead suddenly shot out thousands of rays of divine light. It was simple and abundant, and it was a vast expanse of gray. This was the chaotic divine light, and it could destroy all things and return them to chaos. As soon as it appeared, it fiercely collided with the 5 divine powers. The power of the Daluo Jinxian's attack was naturally shocking. In an instant, the color of heaven and earth changed, and time and space no longer existed. The laws of heaven and earth were shattered one after another, and the chaotic chi surged out and flooded all directions. Nothing could be seen. Cough, cough, how unlucky. After a moment, when the aftershock dissipated, Feng Zichen walked out of the chaos bead, and he couldn't help but cough lightly and complain. At that moment, there was no way he didn't understand what had happened. After coming out of time and space, he actually appeared directly on the battlefield and happened to be in the center of the five people's divine powers. That was why everything had happened just now. Who is it? Who is it? Who dares to interfere with my matters? While the battle was intense, there was suddenly an additional person on the battlefield. Naturally, it attracted the attention of the five people, and they asked one after another. What a coincidence. Looking up, Feng Zichen looked forward, wanting to know which 5 Daluo Jingxian were fighting. However, he couldn't help but laugh when he saw them. Among the 5 Daluo Jingxian, 3 were from the Fiend Dao, and 2 were from the Witch race. The 2 sides stood on 2 sides, one in the east and one in the west. They glared at each other angrily, and it was obvious that they had a deep grudge. However, that wasn't the reason why Feng Zichen laughed. It was because there were acquaintances on both sides of the battlefield. One of the 2 from the Witch race was Qua Fu. Among the 3 from the Fiend Dao, the World Devastator Taoist was one of them. At that moment, the 2 of them had already stepped into the Daluo realm, causing their auras to change drastically. Only a trace of their auras was similar to before. Therefore, Feng Zichen didn't recognize them immediately. Chapter 150. It's you. The moment he saw Feng Zichen, the World Devastator Taoist's face darkened. His eyes were cold, and his killing intent surged as he charged at Feng Zichen. Fellow Daoist, it's been a long time since we last met. Your temper is getting worse. Feng Zichen chuckled, and a purple light appeared on his body, extinguishing the incoming killing intent. Humph. I have been searching for you for many years but could not find any trace of you. I did not expect you to appear before me today. You are really courting death. The World Devastator Taoist snorted, and the killing intent in his eyes intensified. If not for the 2 sorcerer tribesmen before him, he would have attacked Feng Zichen. Ever since the battle in the Thunder Lake, the World Devastator Taoist had been searching for Feng Zichen all over the Eldritch world to avenge his natural source. Unfortunately, Feng Zichen was very cautious and did not leave behind any information. Even his heavenly secrets were completely concealed. After deducing everything, it was like looking for a needle in a haystack to find someone whose background was unknown in the Eldritch world. How could the World Devastator Taoist find him? Furthermore, given the power of the mystic sect in the Eldritch world, the demon sect would not dare to search for someone's whereabouts on a large scale. They would only dare to search in a small area. The World Devastator Taoist was about to give up, but now that Feng Zichen had suddenly appeared before him, he was pleasantly surprised. Old hatred surged in his heart, and his body was filled with killing intent. He could not wait to skin Feng Zichen alive. If not for his rationality, he would have charged at Feng Zichen long ago. Ignoring the World Devastator Taoist, Feng Zichen turned around and greeted Qua Fu, who was on the other side. Fellow Daoist Qua Fu, long time no see. Greetings, fellow Daoist Zichen. Qua Fu nodded and said emotionally, we have not seen each other since the ferocious beast battlefield. It has indeed been a long time. I still remember that we were still at the Tai Jingxian level back then. I did not expect that in the blink of an eye, we would have already attained Daluo Jingxian. Compared to the World Devastator Daoist, Qua Fu's attitude was undoubtedly much better. After all, Feng Zichen had Pangu's inheritance, so the Magi naturally had a good impression of him. Feng Zichen waved his hand and said helplessly, how could my Daluo Dao fruit compare to yours? Let's not talk about it. He knew himself best. His Daluo Jingxian was too weak. How could he compare to the Daluo Dao fruit that others had painstakingly cultivated? And this fellow Daoist is? Looking at the big man with a giant axe beside Qua Fu, Feng Zichen had some guesses, but he still asked. I haven't introduced him to you yet. This is the senior magus of our Huda clan, Xing Tian. Kuo-fu pointed at Xing Tian and introduced. "Greetings, Grand Sorcerer Xing Tian." Sure enough, it was him. Confirming his guess, Feng Zichen bowed and said, "Fellow Daoist Zichen, you don't have to be so polite. Just call me Xing Tian. Since you have been recognized by Father, you are a friend of the Magi tribe. You don't have to be so polite." Panga's name was more useful than Feng Zichen thought. He had not done anything, but Xing Tian had taken the initiative to express his goodwill. "What happened here? Why are you and the others fighting against the demon sect cultivators?" Feng Zichen asked curiously as he looked at the demon sect cultivators in front of him. "Humph. How dare those evil creatures? How dare they take advantage of our seclusion and plunder our people to refine Dharma treasures? They really deserve to die," Xing Tian said hatefully before Kuo-fu could answer. "Killing people to refine Dharma treasures?" Surprised, Feng Zichen looked at the demon sect cultivators with a little surprise. These people really knew how to choose the right time. Not long ago, the appearance of the 5 sages caused a great change in the world. The concentration of congenital qi increased, and the order of the Dharma was clearly visible. The world was clear, and a flourishing cultivation followed one after another. Many powerful figures took this opportunity to go into seclusion to seek the possibility of going further. The untainted land ushered in a long-lost peace. At this time, the sages went to the chaos outside the sky to open up the boundless world. They had no time to take care of the untainted land, and the powerful figures went into seclusion. This gave the demon sect an opportunity to come out from the dark in the untainted land and stir up trouble everywhere. The demon sect was different from the Xianmen. They cultivated by absorbing evil spirit and tribulation qi. The more chaotic the untainted land was, the faster the demon sect cultivators' cultivation speed would be. Because of this, at the end of the ancient times, the demon ancestor Luoho instigated the 3 tribes and triggered a war between the 3 tribes. Wanting to destroy the untainted land was only one aspect. More importantly, they wanted to take this opportunity to go further. Now that the demon sect had appeared again, their target was the witch race. They wanted to imitate the demon ancestor and kill the witch race to frame the demon race. This would trigger the Great Witch Demon War and fill the untainted land with evil spirit and tribulation qi, ushering in a flourishing age for the demon sect. However, not long after they killed the witch race, they were discovered by Xing Tian, who was traveling outside, before they could frame the demon race. This triggered a series of events. "Let's go." On the other side, the demon sect cultivators saw that Feng Zichen and Kuo-fu were chatting happily and were obviously familiar with each other. 2 of them looked at each other and pulled the world devastator Taoist to retreat slowly, intending to leave this place. They did not have the upper hand when it was 3 against 2. Now that Daluo Jingxian had arrived, it was even more impossible for them to gain the upper hand. If they did not leave now, when would they? "Evil creatures, where do you think you're going?" Xing Tian, who had been paying attention to the demon sect cultivators, roared angrily when he saw that the 3 of them were about to escape. He swung his giant axe. The axe was not an ordinary one. It was transformed from a section of Panga's axe and contained part of the true intent of heaven opening. Although it was only in superior grade connate spiritual treasure, its power was greater than a supreme grade connate spiritual treasure. Rumble. A huge crack appeared in the void as though it was splitting the world apart. Earth, fire, water, and wind surged like a giant mouth that could devour the sky. It was extremely terrifying. "Do you really think I'm afraid of you?" The 3 demon sect cultivators who were retreating could not help but turn cold when they sensed the changes behind them. They turned around and used their divine powers to attack behind them. Although Xing Tian was strong, how much power could a hasty attack have? 3 streams of connate evil spirit flew out of their hands and blasted the crack in the void, shattering it and destroying the qi of earth, fire, water, and wind. However, that was enough. The moment the 3 demon sect cultivators turned around to defend themselves, Feng Zichen and the rest moved. They each used their divine powers and attacked the 3 demon sect cultivators. Knowing that he was the weakest, Feng Zichen did not dare to choose the other two demon sect cultivators. He directly targeted the World Devastator Taoist and used his divine powers to fight him. Feng Zichen knew that the World Devastator Taoist's origins had been devoured by the World Tree. Without millions of years of accumulation, it would be impossible for him to recover. Although he did not know how the World Devastator Taoist had attained Tao with his origins missing, Feng Zichen believed that after losing so much origins, even if he was lucky enough to become a Daluo Jingxian, his strength would be at the bottom of the Daluo Jingxian ranks. Chapter 151. Kaboom! Lightning flashed in his hand as Feng Zichen raised his hand and shot out the 10,000 godly thunder towards the World Devastator Taoist. At the same time, the 5 chis in his chest rose and turned into the 5 emperor palm print. Then, the heaven and earth cauldron flew out and suppressed the World Devastator Taoist. The World Devastator Taoist laughed in disdain as he looked at the familiar remarkable power and said to Feng Zichen, "You're still using the same trick. Looks like you haven't improved much over the years." Then, he took out a blood-red sword and slashed it in the air. Boundless demonic chi surged out and drowned the remarkable power. This is the celestial slaying sword. Feng Zichen frowned as he looked at the blood-red sword. He felt a familiar aura from the sword. It was the aura of the celestial slaying sword. Xian Qing was Daoist Shangqing's disciple and was naturally familiar with the aura of the celestial slaying sword formation. Therefore, Feng Zichen, who was of the same mind as Xian Qing, was also very familiar with the celestial slaying sword formation. That's right. This is the celestial slaying sword that the demon ancestor created by imitating the celestial slaying sword formation. Although it is not a connate treasure, it is still a postnatal cardinal treasure with boundless power. It is even more powerful than an ordinary connate spiritual treasure. It's your honor to be able to die under this sword. Isn't that right, Zichen? The World Devastator Taoist gritted his teeth when he said, Zichen. It was obvious that he hated Feng Zichen. When Feng Zichen was talking to Kwa Fu, he did not hide his name from the crowd. Therefore, the World Devastator Taoist learned of his name from their conversation. You want to kill me with this sword? I'm afraid you're thinking too much. Feng Zichen smiled and took out the Zichen sword. He waved his hand and released a sword radiance that destroyed the demonic chi. Postnatal cardinal treasure. How did that sword of yours advance to become an acquired cardinal treasure? Looking at Zichen's sword, World Devastator Taoist's pupils constricted as he exclaimed. Waving the Zichen sword in his hand, Feng Zichen said sarcastically, "What, before I advance to a magic weapon, do I have to report to fellow Daoist?" After absorbing so many innate essences, Zichen's sword had long been upgraded to an acquired supreme treasure. Innate spiritual light flowed on the sword's body, and 46 acquired divine seals appeared faintly. If one were to sense it carefully, one would realize that there was a faint innate Daoist rhyme surrounding Zichen's sword. This was a sign of going against the pre-celestial order. After absorbing some pre-celestial origin energy, Zichen's sword would turn into a pre-celestial spiritual treasure. Fellow Daoist, your mouth is still as disgusting as ever. World Devastator Taoist had been mocked twice since he started cultivating, and both times were by Feng Zichen. Remembering the oath he made in the past, Feng Zichen did not waste any more words. He waved the Zichen sword and released a sword radiance. Fellow Daoist, it's time to settle the score with the Thunder Lord of the Nine Heavens today. The sword radiance was filled with the aura of human Tao. Shadows of 10,000 spirits appeared and charged at World Devastator Taoist, trying to destroy his essence, chi, and spirit. This was the tripartite sword manual, a sword technique that Feng Zichen had recently comprehended from the tripartite Tao of the connate tripartite Tao. As the saying went, humans had 3 treasures, essence, chi, and spirit. Earth had 3 treasures, water, fire, and wind. Heaven had 3 treasures, sun, moon, and stars. Essence, chi, and spirit were the foundation of a person's cultivation. Feng Zichen's sword was the sword of man. It specialized in destroying one's essence, chi, and spirit. It was equivalent to destroying one's foundation and destroying one's Tao. It was extremely vicious. Under the sword radiance, World Devastator Taoist felt that the 3 flowers above his head were on the verge of collapsing. He was in danger of being destroyed at any time. His expression changed as he shouted, "Grade 12 World Devastation Black Lotus, appear." In an instant, a black lotus platform appeared beneath his feet. It emitted a dazzling black light and bloomed into lotus flowers that protected him and blocked the sword of man, immortal slaying sword, kill. World Devastator Taoist took out the immortal slaying sword and charged at Feng Zichen. Buzz, buzz, buzz. As the immortal slaying sword trembled, a monstrous blood-red light surged from its body and swept across the entire area. It was boundless and covered the entire area in the color of blood, turning the entire area into a blood-red domain. Hee hee. Go to hell. World Devastator Taoist laughed savagely. He had a crazed look on his face as he formed a series of hand seals and sent them into the immortal slaying sword, causing the blood-red light on the immortal slaying sword to become even more intense. Whoosh! For blood-red sword rays shot out from the immortal slaying sword and formed a miniature immortal slaying sword formation. It surrounded Feng Zichen and attacked him. Feng Zichen snorted in disdain as he was surrounded by the immortal slaying sword formation. He did not take the immortal slaying sword formation seriously at all. After seeing the genuine celestial slaying sword formation, looking at this fake and inferior product, it was naturally full of flaws. The difference in power was so great that it was like the difference between heaven and earth. He had already tested the power of the Trinity sword scripture earlier. The World Devastator Taoist was of no use to him anymore. Feng Zichen did not plan to waste time with him and decided to defeat him in one move. Rumble. Just as the immortal slaying sword was about to strike, Feng Zichen's body suddenly exuded a vast and boundless aura. It was incomparably heavy and seemed to be able to suppress the heavens. It directly froze the immortal slaying sword in the void. That is Mount Buzhou? Under the World Devastator Taoist's incredulous gaze, the shadow of Mount Buzhou appeared and pressed down on him, suppressing him and the immortal slaying sword. However, Feng Zichen's power was limited and could only suppress the World Devastator Taoist under the shadow of Mount Buzhou. He could not suppress the World Devastator Taoist's spacetime. Damn it! Under the shadow of Mount Buzhou, the World Devastator Taoist controlled the Black Lotus of World Devastation and charged in all directions. He wanted to break through the seal of Mount Buzhou and escape. However, once the shadow of Mount Buzhou landed on the ground, it immediately connected with the surrounding earth veins and connected with millions of miles of mountains and rivers. It was not something the World Devastator Taoist could easily shake. The World Devastator Taoist fought left and right for a while but was unable to leave the area covered by the shadow of Mount Buzhou. Moreover, as time passed, the connection between Mount Buzhou's shadow and the earth veins became deeper and deeper. The power of the mountains and rivers increased, causing the World Devastator Taoist to face more and more pressure. Not long after, the World Devastator Taoist also realized this problem. Then, he stopped in his tracks and activated the Black Lotus of World Devastation with all his might. Destructive aura surged out and destroyed the suppressive force that was surging toward him. Just like that, the two of them reached a strange balance. The World Devastator Taoist could not leave Mount Buzhou's shadow, but the shadow of Mount Buzhou could not do anything to him. Don't worry, fellow Taoist. Let me help you. Seeing that the shadow of Mount Buzhou was unable to completely suppress the World Devastator Taoist, Feng Zichen's mind moved. All kinds of great divine powers flew out of his body and attacked the World Devastator Taoist. Bastard! After being attacked by Feng Zichen's divine powers, the light emitted by the Black Lotus of World Devastation inevitably dimmed. The suppressive force followed and destroyed the balance that the World Devastator Taoist had painstakingly maintained. Wait until I break the seal. I will not let you off easily. With a loud roar, the World Devastator Taoist raised the celestial slaying sword and turned it into a small celestial slaying sword formation that enveloped him. He used it to resist Feng Zichen's divine powers. Chapter 152. Mount Buzhou. What a powerful divine power. On the other side of the battlefield, the other four saw Feng Zichen summon the phantom of Mount Buzhou and felt the vast aura. They couldn't help but be shocked. Then, the two Daluo Jinxians saw the world devastator Taoist suppressed by the phantom of Mount Buzhou. Their expressions changed and they burst out, no longer holding back, attacking Quafu and Xing Tian with all their strength. The Daluo Jinxian fighting Xing Tian was called Mo Luo. He was the disciple of demon ancestor Rahu and also one of the Khanate god fiends born from the Tao of darkness. He roared and layers of black light appeared on his body, turning into a black torrent that swept towards Xing Tian. The light was deep and dark, emitting the will of nirvana. It was the nirvana divine light. Wherever it passed, the void would cease to exist. Even the Tao was wailing as if it was about to be destroyed. Xing Tian was fearless. He turned his axe and slashed at the nirvana divine light. The mighty axe light carried a trace of the will of heaven splitting Tao and clashed fiercely with the nirvana divine light. With a boom, invisible air waves swept out and forced the two of them back a few steps. Mo Luo used this opportunity to put some distance between himself and Xing Tian. Die. Mo Luo stopped and took out a black bow with a flip of his right hand. He sneered at Xing Tian and pulled the bowstring. As soon as the giant black bow appeared, it emitted a strange black light. Scenes of gods and devils falling appeared. Corpses were strewn across the field, a rain of blood fell, and ghosts wept and gods howled. It was extremely mournful. Although there were no sharp arrows on the bow, as the bowstring was pulled, the evil chi and tribulation chi in the world seemed to be attracted and gathered in Mo Luo's hand, gradually forming a black arrow. This black bow was called the God Slayer bow, and it was a supreme-grade natural spirit treasure that contained the Tao of Nirvana. It specialized in annihilating enemies under divine perception, and it was extraordinarily ferocious. It was a Tao protector treasure bestowed upon him by the ancestral devil, Rahu. The moment the arrow took shape, Mo Luo suddenly released his left hand that was pulling the bowstring. So, along with the sound of the sky being torn apart, the arrow carried the Nirvana Tao, natural baleful chi, and tribulation chi of the heavens and the earth as it shot violently towards Xing Tian with the intention of annihilating his consciousness. Not only that, but after shooting that arrow, Mo Luo did not stop. Instead, he continued to draw his large black bow. Only after shooting 9 arrows in a row at Xing Tian did he stop, gasping for breath. The 10 arrows shot out at the same time, forming the great Tao of all directions. From the past to the future, from the heavens to the earth, from the 4 directions of heaven and earth, between life and death, they slashed at Xing Tian from all aspects, wanting to destroy all traces of his existence. This was the supreme divine ability of the demonic path, 10 directions annihilation. Ha, good. With a loud laugh, Xing Tian's body swayed and revealed the true body of a grand shaman. He raised his giant axe and slashed forward. As a first-generation great wizard born from the Panga's bloodline, even though he did not possess most of the Panga's legacy like the ancestral wizard, he would more or less receive some of it. Moreover, Xing Tian also had a small fragment of the Panga's axe. Just this tiny fragment alone allowed him to surpass the other great wizards by quite a bit, allowing him to unleash a sliver of the mysteries of the Panga's creation of the heavens. With a rumble, the void cracked open. Khanate light flickered, forming endless truths of the great Tao and interweaving with endless laws of order. It seemed like it was going to split the heavens and earth apart. It ignored time and space and struck the arrow. Amidst the huge ripples, Mo Luo's figure moved. With Khanate murderous intent, he clashed with Xing Tian in close combat. On the other side, Mi Tian, another disciple of the demon ancestor Rahu, saw that the world devastator Taoist and Mo Luo were locked in a bitter battle. He knew that the situation was critical, so he used his strongest move to attack Quafu. A mirror rose behind Mi Tian. It was extremely dazzling, forming all sorts of images in the air. Everyone's joy was reflected in it. A dispirited sound rang out, causing those who heard it to feel a sense of bliss. It bewitched their minds, messed with their hearts, and tempted them to fall into the demonic path. This was a supreme-grade Khanate spirit treasure, the all-encompassing mirror. It was given to Mi Tian by the demon ancestor Rahu for protection. It could create all sorts of wondrous realms that could extinguish one's mind and sever one's heart. It could also capture souls and control objects. It could release dark light that entered one's true spirit. It had endless uses. Shut up. When those dispirited sounds entered Kwa Fu's ears, he felt irritated and angry. He could not help but shout. As his voice reverberated, it formed an invisible sound wave that swept out, causing ripples to appear in the void. The wondrous realms created by the all-encompassing mirror were shattered into pieces and turned into dust. Ha! Without giving Mi Tian a chance to continue attacking, Kwa Fu tossed out the peachwood staff in his hand. It turned into a forest of peach trees that took root in the ground, forming a natural array that trapped Mi Tian. Kill! Mi Tian formed a hand seal, mobilized all the magic power in his body, and pointed at the all-encompassing mirror. In an instant, the brilliance of the all-encompassing mirror became even brighter. Countless inscriptions appeared on the surface of the mirror, projecting a colorless divine light that carried a decaying intent towards the peach forest. However, the peach trees were connected to the earth veins and grew endlessly. As soon as the all-encompassing mirror destroyed a peach tree, a new one would be born. There was no way to kill them all, firmly trapping Mi Tian in it. Haha. I've long heard that the demonic path's body tempering technique is one of the best in the great desolate world. I wonder how it compares to my sorcerer true body. Today, let me see. After trapping Mi Tian, Kwa Fu revealed his great sorcerer true body, stepped into the peach forest, and began to fight Mi Tian in close combat. The demonic path's body tempering technique was the inheritance of the chaos demon god, using innate evil chi to temper the body. The sorcerer race's body tempering technique was the bloodline inheritance of Pangu, using the laws of heaven and earth to temper the body. Both body tempering techniques had great origins and could be said to be the best in the great desolate world. Each had its own advantages and disadvantages, so it was not easy to compare them. However, in the end, the great desolate world was created by Pangu. As his bloodline descendants, the sorcerer race naturally had the advantage. Kwa Fu stood on the ground, and from the depths of the earth, endless energy surged, gradually suppressing Mi Tian and gaining the upper hand. Open. On the other side, Mo Luo found an opportunity and suddenly shot an arrow. This arrow was not aimed at Xing Tian, but at Feng Zichen. At this time, Feng Zichen was using all his strength to suppress the world devastator Taoist. His heart tightening, he suddenly turned around and saw the divine obliteration arrow. Knowing how powerful this arrow was, he did not dare to take it head-on. His figure flashed as he hurriedly dodged to the side. Rumble. Without any hindrance, the arrow of annihilation landed directly on the phantom of Mount Buzhou, causing it to wobble and crack. Oh no! Shocked, Feng Zichen formed a seal and was about to shoot out the phantom of Mount Buzhou again when the world devastator Taoist suddenly exerted his strength. The world devastator Black Lotus expanded and lifted the phantom of Mount Buzhou. He took the opportunity to escape. Let's work together. Otherwise, we won't be able to leave. The world devastator Taoist shouted at the two of them as soon as they escaped from the phantom of Mount Buzhou. Chapter 153. As he spoke, a vicious look appeared on the world devastator Taoist's face. He spat out a mouthful of blood essence onto the grade 12 Black Lotus of Destruction. Buzz. 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 After absorbing the world devastator Taoist's blood essence, the Black Lotus of Destruction started to tremble. The black light on its body started to shrink, and a destructive aura leaked out as if it could destroy the world. At that moment, its power had been pushed to the limit. One could vaguely see a green lotus appearing behind it. It grew in the chaos and bloomed with a grade 36 flower. It emitted a boundless creation divine light. That was the chaos treasure, the grade 36 creation green lotus. Under the world devastator Taoist's relentless urging, the Black Lotus of Destruction activated the deepest imprint in its body and summoned the creation green lotus. It once again had a trace of the chaos treasure's power. Chi. Chi. The Black Lotus of Destruction suddenly flashed, and a terrifying aura erupted. It shot out 3 beams of destruction divine light toward Feng Zichen, Xing Tian, and Kuafu respectively. Without much time to think, Feng Zichen instinctively slashed out with his sword and then hid in the chaos bead, hiding in the depths of spacetime. The sword beam slashed at the destruction divine light, but before it could explode, it was destroyed by the aura of the destruction divine light. After that, the destruction divine light did not lose its momentum. It followed the traces of Feng Zichen's escape and blasted into the depths of spacetime. It blasted the chaos bead out, and its brilliance dimmed significantly. Damn it! The demon sect is already so rampant. Why haven't the Xian sect experts arrived yet? Within the chaos bead, Feng Zichen steadied himself and cursed hatefully. The World Devastator Taoist and the others had used some unknown method to seal the spacetime of this place. As a result, the 6 of them had fought for so long and caused such a huge commotion, but not a single Xian sect expert came to investigate. Feng Zichen had forgotten that the demon sect was an expert at sowing discord. In ancient times, they had ambushed several Daluo Jingxian, and no one had ever found any trace of them. It could be seen that with their means, it was nothing to seal a space and time. On the other side, Xing Tian sensed the danger. He exerted his strength and forced Imo Luo away with his axe. He turned around and took out an earthen yellow shield and placed it in front of him. This shield was formed from the quintessence of the earth, and it was a top-grade natural spirit treasure. Even though it didn't possess much offensive strength, it was extremely thick and heavy, and its defensive strength was extremely formidable. It was as if all of its skill points had been placed on defense. It was one of the best defensive treasures in the prehistoric era. Unfortunately, the witch tribesmen did not have dermic powers and could not activate connate numinous treasures. Even if Xing Tian used it as a shield in front of him, the power it could exert was only its instinct, less than 1/10,000th of its full power. How could it compare with the Black Lotus of Destruction when it erupted at full power? Boom! The divine light of destruction struck the shield, shattering the layer of light that appeared on its surface. It then slammed into the shield. A tremendous force was transmitted, and Xing Tian was sent flying along with the shield. Fortunately, Xing Tian's shield was tough enough. Even though it could not exert any of its power, its sturdiness did not change. Therefore, Xing Tian did not suffer any serious injuries except for being a little disheveled. Mo Luo took advantage of this opportunity to escape from the battlefield and come to the World Devastator Taoist side. You're courting death. On the other side of the battlefield, Kuafu, who was in the midst of a fierce battle with Mi Tian, saw the sudden attack of the divine light of destruction and his expression darkened. He roared and fully unleashed the power of his bloodline. In the next moment, the murderous aura inscribed in the witch tribe's bloodline rumbled and raged in all directions. It actually suppressed Mi Tian's innate murderous aura and was even more murderous than his. The earthen yellow light radiated from Kuafu's body and surged into the peach forest. In an instant, the surrounding peach trees grew wildly, emitting a misty blue light. Life chi filled the air and gave birth to strands of innate wood chi. This was wood born from earth. As a grand shaman of the Huda tribe, Kuafu's blood was similar to that of the Hudu ancestral shaman. It was a bloodline that contained the laws of earth. Kuafu, who should have cultivated the Huda physique and cultivated the Huda physique, used his great wisdom to forge a new path. He used earth to give birth to wood, deducing the mysteries of creation and breaking free from Huda's influence on the great Tao, walking his own path. Go! With a shout, Kuafu formed a seal with his hands. The innate wood chi and the turbid aura of the earth suddenly converged, forming a ray of greenish-yellow light that deduced the mysteries of creation and collided with the divine light of destruction. Rumble. With a loud explosion, the 2 rays of light shattered at the same time, turning into fragments that vanished into thin air. Then, the peach forest exploded, turning back into a staff and returning to Kuafu's hand. Putting away the all-encompassing mirror, Mi Tian used the shockwaves from the explosion to retreat and stand with Mo Luo and the World Devastator Taoist. At the same time, Feng Zichen and the other 2 stood together, facing the World Devastator Taoist and the other 2 from afar. Kill! Looking at each other, the 3 of them joined forces and poured their magic power into the Black Lotus of Destruction, fully activating its power. Boom! 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 They attacked Feng Zichen and the other two. Asterisk ding, asterisk the sound of creation came, and the illusory image of the green lotus of creation behind the 12th grade black lotus of destruction became clearer. As it swayed, endless creation was born, as if it wanted to deprive all life and wipe out all things. Fellow Taoists, please help me. Glancing at the 12th grade black lotus of destruction, Feng Zichen summoned the illusory image of Mount Buzhou and turned to the other two. Of course. Replying, Xing Tian and Kuafu fully activated the bloodline power in their bodies, summoning a wisp of Pangu's aura and injecting it into the illusory image of Mount Buzhou. Buzz! A buzzing sound came from heaven and earth, and the sound of Tao resounded. The illusory image of Mount Buzhou became heavier, and a vast divine aura burst out. An indescribable, majestic, and divine illusory image slowly appeared. At this moment, time and space stagnated, and the great Tao stopped moving. Heaven and earth stood still, and everything was suppressed. Only the illusory image of the green lotus of creation and Feng Zichen, who were protected by the illusory image of Pangu, still had consciousness. Kill! Kill! Without hesitation, both sides attacked at the same time, urging the illusory image of the green lotus of creation and Pangu's illusory image to collide with each other. Heaven and earth first darkened, and then suddenly there was silence. Finally, a ray of light appeared, getting brighter and brighter, and dazzling. Even with Feng Zichen and the others' cultivation levels, they could not open their eyes because of the light. When the light disappeared, the 6 of them opened their eyes and looked forward. They saw that the illusory image of the green lotus of creation and Pangu's illusory image had disappeared, leaving only the black lotus of destruction and the illusory image of Mount Buzhou. Ka-cha! Ka-cha! With a cracking sound, Mount Buzhou broke apart inch by inch, turning into the origin of earth and returning to Feng Zichen's body. A crack appeared on the body of the black lotus of destruction, and it flew back into the hands of the world devastator Taoist. Then, the collision force of the 2 powerful illusory images began to explode. A huge vortex suddenly appeared, swallowing all existences of concepts. The 6 of them were unable to resist and were sucked in. Chapter 154. Not good. Inside the vortex, everyone felt their magic power gradually fading, and their connection with the great desolate land began to weaken. Their perception of the great Tao was not as clear as before. The fading of magic power was nothing to the 6 of them. After all, Daluo Jingxian did not rely too much on magic power. However, the weakening of their connection with the great desolate land caused the 6 of them to panic a little. The reason why Daluo Jingxian was immortal was because of the great desolate land. They had combined their great Tao with the great Tao of the great desolate land, so they could coexist with the great Tao of the great desolate land. If their connection with the great desolate land was severed, their great Tao would fall into eternal silence, and their immortal characteristics would disappear. At that time, they would really die. How could they not panic? Daluo Jingxian, after all, had only transcended the long river of destiny, not the great desolate land. Outside of the great desolate land, how could they mobilize the power of the great Tao of the great Tao? The 6 of them were anxious and did not bother to find trouble with the other party. They all used their strongest divine abilities in an attempt to break the vortex and escape. At this time, the most anxious of the 6 was undoubtedly Feng Zichen. He could have the power to compete with Daluo Jingxian all because of the human race's destiny. Because of this, as his connection with the great desolate land weakened, his connection with the human race's destiny also began to fade. If this continued, it would not be long before he fell from Daluo Jingxian's realm. At that time, no one would need to do anything as this terrifying vortex could obliterate him. Hong Long Long. For a time, the aura of the great Tao filled the air, and various brilliance flashed. Several supreme divine abilities that only existed in legends were shot out from the 6 people's hands one after another, bombarding the great vortex, but they did not cause the slightest ripple. Everyone, how about we join forces? Unable to leave this place for a long time, coupled with the continued weakening of their connection with the great desolate land, Mi Tian proposed to everyone. If one person could not do it, the 6 of them might work together. Good. Yes. Knowing that this was their only chance, Feng Zichen and the others immediately agreed. Seeing that they couldn't break the vortex by themselves, for the sake of their lives, the 6 of them temporarily put aside their grudges and decided to work together to break the vortex. Xing Tian narrowed his eyes and abruptly spat out a mouthful of Senior Magus blood towards the heaven-punishing axe. After absorbing the great shaman's blood essence, the heaven-punishing axe automatically floated in the air and emitted a dazzling light. It was the light of opening the sky. Chaos runes appeared on its body, and they intertwined crazily. Gradually, a blurry shadow of a giant axe appeared beside the heaven punishment axe, exuding an aura that could split the heavens and earth. Heaven-splitting divine axe. Xing Tian used his own bloodline as a guide to borrow a trace of the heaven-splitting divine axe's power from the heaven-splitting axe fragment inside the heaven-punishing axe. Slash. Raising the heaven-punishing axe, Xing Tian roared and used his strongest power to chop forward. Suddenly, the dazzling axe light and the shadow of the heaven-splitting divine axe shot out. Go! Between life and death, Mo Luo didn't dare to hold back. With a flip of his left hand, he took out a long black arrow and placed it on the god-slaying bow. He knocked the arrow and shot it in the direction of Xing Tian's attack. The arrow was a post-celestial artifact. However, unlike other acquired ultimate treasures, it was a consumable item that could only be used once. In the ancient times, the 3 races fought incessantly, causing the primitive world to be in a mess. The world was filled with evil energy, resentment energy, and tribulation energy. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Mo Luo spent millions of years painstakingly collecting the evil energy and tribulation energy in the world, to refine 9 acquired ultimate treasure arrows. Since the ancient times, Mo Luo had gone through countless battles. Only a few of these 9 arrows were left. Now, Mo Luo was pained to take out this arrow. This was his strongest trump card. He didn't even bear to use it when he was fighting Xing Tian. If this matter didn't concern his own life and death, he definitely wouldn't use this arrow. Roar! 2 green and yellow rays of light rose from Quafu's body and gradually formed 2 powerful Dao shadows in the air. One of the figures was green like bamboo. It had the body of a bird and the face of a human. It was the ancestor of Eastern Wood, Gomang. The other figure had the body of a human and the tail of a snake. It had 7 hands behind its back and 2 hands in front of its chest. It was the central ancestor of Earth, Hutu. Quafu used his bloodline to create the Hutu Taoism form and Gomang's Taoism form. With the support of the 2 ancestral shamans, a green and yellow divine light blasted toward the place where Xing Tian was attacking. Mi Tian's complexion changed greatly as he grit his teeth, seemingly making up his mind. Pointing his finger at the heaven-enveloping mirror, he summoned a number of illusory figures from it and rushed towards the direction of the bombardment. These illusory figures were transformed from the creatures that Mi Tian had killed since he started his cultivation. After these creatures were killed by Mi Tian, their true spirits shattered and returned to the world, giving birth to new innate spirits. Their corpses and origins were refined by Mi Tian and integrated into the all-sky mirror. They turned into special spiritual bodies and fought for him. These creatures had varying cultivation levels. Most of them were in the Tai Jinxian realm and a small number of them were in the Golden Immortal realm. There were even 2 Golden Immortal realm fierce beasts hidden among them. This was also Mi Tian's trump card. When he fought with Quafu, he was always at a disadvantage and did not use this move. Now, he could no longer hide it. Pagoda, come out. World Devastator Taoist's face was ferocious as he roared. Accompanied by a monstrous death chi and a dense fiendish chi, an 18-story pagoda slowly rose from his head. The pagoda was surrounded by a dense death chi, as if it was the home of death and the resting place of all living creatures. It made people feel like they were sinking into oblivion at a glance. In each story of the pagoda, there were countless souls floating and sleeping. Their faces were either serene or pained, and so on. This scene inevitably reminded Feng Zichen of the 18 levels of hell in the legends of later generations. Moreover, this pagoda was only an acquired treasure, but it gave Feng Zichen an extremely dangerous feeling. It was even more dangerous than the 12th grade Black Lotus of Destruction. The Black Lotus of Destruction was a top-grade innate spirit treasure. This pagoda was an acquired treasure, but it was even stronger than the Black Lotus of Destruction. This was unbelievable. This also meant that this treasure was not inferior to the Chaos Bead and Hong Meng Daozhong in his hands. Feng Zichen had only heard of one such treasure. It was the legendary heaven-overturning seal that the primeval Lord of Heaven had refined from a section of Mount Buzhou. Feng Zichen did not know that this pagoda was refined by the demon ancestor Rahu by gathering endless death qi and the souls of hundreds of millions of living creatures. He intended to use this treasure to take the authority of death into his own hands and use it as a backup plan for him to become a saint. Chapter 155. Demon ancestor Rahu had a good idea. Once he refined the pagoda, even if he failed to attain Tao through the great tribulation of heaven and earth, he could still use this treasure to control the power of death and attain Tao and become a sage. However, he did not expect that before he could refine the pagoda, he would be defeated by Tao ancestor Hong Jun. He had no choice but to escape the primordial world and hide in a dark corner, silently watching the primordial world and waiting for an opportunity to make a comeback. Now, the strength of the liches and demons gave demon ancestor Rahu hope of making a comeback. Therefore, he handed the pagoda to the world devastator Taoist and the others and asked them to go to the primordial world to sow discord between the liches and demons. Of course, he had another goal, which was to let the world devastator Taoist and the others kill some experts while they sowed discord between the liches and demons so that they could continue refining the pagoda. When the 6 of them were fighting, the world devastator Taoist had relied on the pagoda to seal the surrounding spacetime so that outsiders could not sense the situation inside. Naturally, no one would come to help. Kill. As soon as he said that, the scene of the death of tens of thousands of creatures appeared on the pagoda. The scene of the heavens falling and the scene of the great Tao's destruction appeared. All kinds of strange phenomena appeared one after another, and it was terrifying. With a swoosh, those terrifying phenomena quietly shattered and condensed into a ray of death. It carried the aura of the great Tao of Nirvana and shot toward the direction where everyone was attacking. Tsk tisk. Indeed, none of these Daluo Jingxian are easy to deal with. Each of them hides deeper than the other. Seeing these Daluo Jingxian take out their trump cards one by one, Feng Zichen sighed with emotion. Not long ago, these Daluo Jingxian were all extremely ferocious as if they had been injected with chicken blood. Every move they made was to kill the other party, and they looked like they were going all out. But now, it seemed that they were all holding back and hiding very deeply. Clearly, they were deliberately hiding their strength and waiting for the critical moment to give a ruthless blow. What a heart! Moreover, Feng Zichen suspected that the trump cards they were showing now might not be their final trump cards. Perhaps, they were still hiding their strength. However, regardless of whether they were still hiding their strength, Feng Zichen could not hide anymore. Once the connection with the untainted world was severed, they might not die, but he might not. Even though he had barely survived with the help of the Chaos Bead and the Hongmeng Daozhong, it would be difficult for him to return to the primordial world. Taking a deep breath, Feng Zichen opened his mouth and swallowed the Chaos Bead. In an instant, boundless chaos qi gushed out from the Chaos Bead and turned into boundless dermic powers that poured into his body, causing his power to rise. Go! With a loud roar, Feng Zichen activated all the mana in his body. The 5 qi in his chest surged and rose from his body, forming the 5 Emperor's great palm print. Suddenly, it blasted forward. This time, the 5 Emperor's great palm print was different from before. It was filled with the aura of the Great Way, which was different from the power of the untainted world. It belonged to the power of the Great Way of the 5 elements. What appeared on its body was no longer the phantoms of the 5 elements sacred beasts, but the phantoms of 5 terrifying demonic gods. Those were the demonic gods of the 5 elements, which represented the highest achievement of the Great Way of the 5 elements. Feng Zichen replaced the 5 elements sacred beasts with the demonic gods of the 5 elements and evolved a new 5 elements Great Emperor. He reconstructed the 5 Emperor's great palm print and drew in the power of the Great Way of the Unseen, causing it to be sublimated and its power to multiply. Rumbling, under the 5 emperors' great palm print, the power of the 5 elements rotated endlessly. It was like a millstone of destruction, as if it was going to obliterate the past, the future, the present, and everything that existed. Each of the 6 great magical powers had the power to destroy a part of the world. Moreover, the 6 of them joined forces and attacked together. How powerful would their power be? Even a Daluo Jinxian would die and fall into a deep sleep after being hit by such a sudden attack. Under the bombardment of the 6 great magical powers, the huge whirlpool that the 6 of them had failed to shake it all began to tremble violently. Then, the huge whirlpool collapsed with the direction of the 6 great magical powers as the origin. It turned into a state of nothingness and spat out all the power that it had previously devoured. Feng Zichen and the others were spat out by the huge whirlpool along with the power. However, the power of the huge whirlpool when it collapsed was too terrifying. Before Feng Zichen and the others could find the path to the untainted world, the river of time and space underwent a shocking change under the impact of the terrifying power. Rumble. Huge waves surged into the sky, setting off boundless waves on the river of time and space, causing the secrets hidden in the depths of time and space to gradually surface. In the depths of the river of time and space, an unknown period of time, a period of history that had been forgotten for an unknown period of time, was swept up by the huge waves in the huge storm that stirred the river of time and space, surging up from the bottom of the river and appearing in front of everyone. At the same time, a vast divine might approached and pressed down on everyone. It cast a shadow over everyone's hearts and made them feel powerless. That was the power of Mount Buzhou. With such a huge change in the river of time and space, Mount Buzhou naturally reacted immediately. Its supreme divine power erupted, wanting to suppress all the existences that were disturbing the river of time and space. That is, seeing the unknown period of time, although everyone was puzzled, they couldn't care less now. They rushed into that period of time as if they were grasping at straws. No matter how dangerous it was, it couldn't be more dangerous than being suppressed by Mount Buzhou. One had to know that if they were suppressed by Mount Buzhou, they would have no future. If they fled, there was still a chance of survival. If they didn't leave, there was no way out. It was obvious what to choose. Oh. What's wrong with the river of time and space? What happened? Who's shaking the river of time and space? How could such a commotion be hidden any longer? Instantly, many eminences woke up from their seclusion and looked towards the river of time and space. However, after Feng Zichen and the others left, Mount Buzhou's power pressed down and suppressed the river of time and space again, causing all traces to be erased. The eminences naturally couldn't discover anything. Where is this? Hiding in the chaos bead, Feng Zichen passed through a spacetime barrier and arrived in a mysterious world. Here, the connate energy was extremely rich, and the laws of order could be seen clearly. However, it was definitely not a cultivation holy land. This was because there were cracks everywhere in the void. From time to time, a storm formed by chaotic aura would blow past, strangling everything in its path. It was terrifying. The terrain of this place was also extremely strange. It emitted an ancient aura. Even the mountains and rivers were ancient. It was a barbaric and simple scene. The aura here is so ancient. It's even older than the ancient era. After quietly sensing for a while, Feng Zichen discovered that this place was even older than the ancient era in his impression. This was an era even further back. Chapter 156. Could this be, is this the legendary primordial age? Feng Zichen said in bewilderment as he looked at the ancient world in front of him. Only the immemorial era was older than the antiquity era. Legend had it that before the ancient era, before the 3 races were born and the great desolate Aeon was just established, there was an ancient period of time. During that period of time, because the world had just been created, it was not very stable. Quite a bit of primal chaos chi remained, drifting around the world. Spatial storms would erupt from time to time, attacking all living beings in the primordial world, causing the cultivation environment to be abnormally bad. Even the heavenly Tao was ignorant and could not take care of the entire primordial world. How could it be so perfect and take care of all aspects? The innate gods that were born at that time were all bathed in the Tao rhythm of the great Taos. They were extraordinarily strong and their innate origin energy was extremely dense, far surpassing the innate gods of the later generations. They were the oldest group of Khanate god fiends in the world. All of them had extraordinary encounters. Hong Jun, ancestral dragon, Qilin ancestor. They were born in this era. However, during that period of time, it was no longer the Khanate god fiends that roamed the untainted land, but the Khanate ferocious beasts transformed from the remains of the chaos fiend gods. These Khanate ferocious beasts were different from the ferocious beasts of the later generations that had no intelligence. They were born from the will of the chaos demonic god. Their Taoist bodies were naturally formed, and they were well connected. They had also inherited part of the chaos demonic god's legacy. In the harsh environment, they were like fish in water. They saw the innate gods as their prey and hunted them crazily, further reducing their living space. For this reason, for a very long time, the innate fiend gods had been hiding in the untainted land to avoid the persecution of the innate ferocious beasts. Later on, these Khanate god fiends gradually matured. Under the leadership of the ancestral dragon and the others, they rebelled and fought against the Khanate ferocious beasts for a long time. It was because of this war that the ancestral Gragon and the others had accumulated enough capital to lay a firm foundation for ruling the untainted land in the future. Khanate god fiends were the orthodox lineage of the primordial world and were blessed by the world. Therefore, as time passed, the Khanate beasts that had the upper hand gradually lost ground to the Khanate gods. At the end of the primordial era, the innate gods and demons fought a great battle against the innate beasts. With the secret help of the heavens and earth, the Xiantian ferocious beast was defeated. Their intense unwillingness caused the Khanate ferocious beasts to completely lose their rationality and self-destruct, taking the many Khanate god fiends with them. With the fall of the Khanate god fiends and Khanate ferocious beasts, their origins returned to the world, causing the world to evolve further. The heavenly Tao was further perfected, and the primordial world was basically stabilized. As for the innate gods that survived, they also received the fruits of their labor. Blessed by the heaven and earth's fate, their strength grew by leaps and bounds in the following years, and the three races also rose to power. The primordial world entered the primordial age. As for the old matters of the primordial age, they were buried in the passage of time after all, as they were related to the face of the innate gods. Innate god fiends were born great and lofty, the rulers of heaven and earth. How could they have been treated as prey by innate ferocious beasts? How could they have such a tragic past? If someone found out, it would be terrible. Therefore, everything related to the primordial era was sunk into the depths of the river of spacetime by the Khanate god fiends. As a result, only some ancient legends were passed down in later generations. Now, because of an accident, Feng Zichen and the others stirred up the river of spacetime and shook the primordial battlefield of the past out of the depths of the river of spacetime, causing the secrets of the primordial era to reappear in the world. Is this really the primordial battlefield? With this thought in mind, Feng Zichen calmed his mind and carefully sensed the changes in his body. When he found that his connection with the destiny of the human race was still there, he heaved a sigh of relief. Whether this is the primordial battlefield or not, there is no doubt that this place belongs to the primordial world. It was good that he was still in the primordial world. This way, he could maintain the combat strength of Daluo Jingxian and have more ability to protect himself when he encountered danger. Whoosh! A gust of black wind blew past Feng Zichen and destroyed the void for thousands of miles, making his eyelids twitch. Chaotic baleful qi. There's actually chaotic baleful qi here. Feng Zichen was a little shocked. The black wind was chaotic baleful qi. His figure moved, and he rushed forward. Even if this place was not the primordial battlefield, it should be related to the chaos demon celestial. Not long after, Feng Zichen found something unusual. In front of him were broken mountains, dried-up rivers, and a devastated land. In the void, there was a sorrowful feeling, and there was an extremely low whimper. From time to time, there was a rain of blood, which was incomparably mournful. Affected by this, Feng Zichen couldn't help but feel depressed. A great overarching golden immortal has fallen here. Moreover, judging from the commotion, I'm afraid it's not just one. At least dozens of great overarching golden immortals have fallen together to cause such a commotion. There might even be more. Stopping, Feng Zichen silently calculated in his heart for a while and came to a shocking conclusion. It seems that it's better to be careful. After muttering to himself, the Hongmeng Daozhong flew out of Feng Zichen's body and hovered above his head. Strands of Hongmeng Qi hung down to protect him. So many Daluo Jingxian had died here, and who knew what kind of monsters would be born here. It was never wrong to be careful. The further he went, the more dangerous it was. In the beginning, what Feng Zichen encountered were only strands of chaotic baleful qi, which couldn't cause him any harm. After walking for a while, he saw chaotic baleful qi raging and swallowing everything. It was connected to the great chaos outside the realm, which scared him so much that he carefully avoided it. In the end, various colors of light intertwined in the void. There were Tao and truth intertwined, and fragments of laws appeared, emitting a terrifying aura. That was the aftermath of the battle in the past. Because the power was too strong, even after countless years, it had not been erased. Instead, it became more and more intense and combined with the laws of heaven and earth, turning into a strange realm. After carefully bypassing these strange areas, Feng Zichen came to a place filled with Taoist rhymes. It was not exactly a place filled with Taoist rhymes. In the depths of the Taoist rhymes, there was a deep chaotic baleful qi that was entangled with the Taoist rhymes. Looking at the situation, it should be two Daluo Jingxian that died here. Feng Zichen held his chin and looked for a while before coming to a conclusion. One exuded the aura of heaven and earth, while the other exuded the aura of a chaos demon god. These two were born with irreconcilable contradictions. Seeing that they were still entangled with each other after death, there must be a huge blood feud. Tree of World, I'll leave this to you. After looking for a while, Feng Zichen took out the chaos bead and said to the Tree of World. Chapter 157. Most of the Khanate origins of the two Daluo Jingxian had already returned to heaven and earth. Only some Khanate origins that were deeply entangled with the chaotic evil qi were left behind. The chaotic evil qi was the most ferocious thing in heaven and earth. These Khanate origins that were left behind had already become the most poisonous thing in the world. Even if ordinary people obtained them, they would not be able to use them. But the Tree of World was different. As a chaos spiritual root, it could absorb all the energy derived from the chaos as nourishment for its own growth. Even the chaotic evil qi was no exception. Sensing the power of the Khanate origins, the Tree of World could not wait to extend a root and take root in the center of the origins, absorbing it crazily. The untainted land is still too dangerous. Even the Daluo Jingxian cannot protect himself. Although he is said to be immortal and indestructible, there are too many ways to prevent him from returning. Through the Khanate origin, Feng Zichen's eyes saw through the layers of illusions and came to a dead place. There, two dazzling true spirits were tightly entangled and fighting fiercely without stopping. It was as if they would fight until the end of the untainted land and perish together with the world. The two true spirits were the two Daluo Jingxian who had died here. Their consciousness had long disappeared. The battle now was driven by the instinct to destroy the opponent. If the Daluo Jingxian wanted to return, he would have to accumulate power in his sleep. When his power reached a certain level, he would cross the boundary of life and death and return to the untainted land. However, these two true spirits had been fighting since ancient times, constantly exhausting their own strength. They hadn't accumulated a single bit of strength, so how could they return to their original form? If this continued, the two Daluo Jingxian would probably never return. I wonder if the Khanate divine demon's spiritual treasures are still here? Coming back to his senses, Feng Zichen looked at the Khanate origins that were decreasing. He could not help but have other thoughts. As the oldest Khanate divine demons, they must have Khanate spiritual treasures of high levels. Now that they might never return, it would be a pity to leave these Khanate spiritual treasures here. It would be better to bring them back to the human race and add some strength to the human race. At the thought of this, Feng Zichen released his divine perception and scanned the surroundings to see if there were any traces of innate spiritual treasures nearby. A moment later, he retracted his divine sense, having found nothing. However, he was not disappointed. Spiritual treasures were items that could be carried around with the owner. Even if the owner died, they would remain by the owner's side. He released his divine perception to search the vicinity just in case he missed something. Several years passed in the blink of an eye. The connate origin here had all been absorbed by the Tree of World. Perhaps Feng Zichen's previous warning had taken effect. Before the World Tree returned to the Chaos Bead, it actually spat out a wisp of the world's origin at him. It was no longer as stingy as before. From the looks of it, the warning from back then was still effective. Feng Zichen shook his head and laughed. Ignoring the Tree of World, Feng Zichen stepped forward. In front of him was the place where the connate origin had been. After the connate origin had been absorbed by the Tree of World, two hazy balls of light appeared. They were surrounded by connate aura. There was no doubt that they were connate spiritual treasures. Feng Zichen's target was them. As he approached, he waved his sleeves and broke the two balls of light, revealing the connate spiritual treasures inside. However, what he saw in front of him was completely different from what he had imagined. How could this be? Looking at the fragments of the connate spiritual treasures in front of him, Feng Zichen was speechless. There were indeed connate spiritual treasures in the balls of light. However, they had been broken so badly that even their original appearance could not be seen. Of the two connate spiritual treasures, one of them had been broken into 9 pieces. They looked like white jade and were extremely dazzling. The other was even more miserable. There was only a little connate inextinguishable divine light left. Its original body had completely disappeared. Alas! It's better than nothing. Let's see if I can repair them first. With a sigh, Feng Zichen took the 9 pieces of white jade and put them together in his hands. The original appearance of the connate spiritual treasure could no longer be seen. However, from the connate Taoist rhyme that it emitted, it seemed to be able to illuminate everything. It should be related to the Tao of Light. A few days later, Feng Zichen put away the 9 pieces of white jade helplessly. He had given up on the idea of repairing it. According to his calculations, the connate spiritual treasure should have been broken into 12 pieces. However, there were only 9 pieces here. It was obvious that it had been lost in the battle. Moreover, the connate inextinguishable divine light of the connate spiritual treasure was also severely damaged. It was less than 1/10 of its peak. If he wanted to rely on it to repair itself, it would not be able to recover to its peak even when the Eldritch world was destroyed. If he used the 9 pieces of white jade as the foundation to refine a new connate spiritual treasure, it would at most be a middle-grade connate spiritual treasure. Before this connate spiritual treasure was broken, it was a supreme-grade connate spiritual treasure. I'll put it away first. I'll think about it later. If I really can't repair it, I'll use it to refine a new connate spiritual treasure. In the end, he could not resist the temptation of a supreme-grade connate spiritual treasure. Feng Zichen decided to wait and see if he could find the remaining 3 pieces. Even if he could not repair it, he could find the remaining 3 pieces and refine a new Dharma treasure. It would also increase its power significantly. With another wave of his hand, Feng Zichen took another connate spiritual treasure. It was a small section of the connate inextinguishable divine light. The Dharma of darkness vaguely appeared within it. It emitted an aura that was completely opposite to the other connate spiritual treasure. No wonder the two of them fought so fiercely. They were born to be enemies. At this moment, Feng Zichen came to a realization. One was of light while the other was of darkness. They were on different sides. In addition, they were born to be enemies. How could they not fight to the death? This connate spiritual treasure saves me a lot of trouble. There's no way to repair it. I can only find materials to refine a new connate spiritual treasure. Feng Zichen smiled as he put away the connate spiritual treasure. The body of the treasure had been completely shattered. Even the connate inextinguishable divine light was only left with a small section. There was no other way to restore it except for letting it recover by itself. However, it had been so long. Fengzichin could not afford to wait. It was better to find suitable materials and refine a new connate spiritual treasure. TSK. This battle was really fierce. Fengzichin sighed as he looked at the battlefield again. The two Daluo Jingxian perished together. Even their connate spiritual treasures were smashed to pieces. It was obvious how fierce this battle was. Fengzichin bowed to the place and turned to rush elsewhere. He was not the only one who had come to the Archean relic. If he delayed any longer, the opportunity might be taken by someone else. Fengzichin did not know how big the Archean relic was. However, he knew that this place was definitely not small. Even if there were few experts in the Archean era, there were at least 100 Daluo Jingxian on both sides. And this place could accommodate so many Daluo Jingxian fighting. How could it be small? Chapter 158. The Archean ruins were boundless and filled with danger. Even with Fengzichin's cultivation, he did not dare to fly recklessly in the air. He could only carefully travel on the ground, avoid all kinds of dangerous places, and look for opportunities to explore the place. A few years later, Fengzichin found another battlefield where the Daluo Jingxian were fighting in hundreds of thousands of miles away from here. They died together again. This is really cruel. Fengzichin couldn't help but click his tongue after looking for a while. The situation here was similar to the previous one. Two Daluo Jingxian died together. However, the difference was that the two Daluo Jingxian cultivated the same great way, the way of nothingness. Therefore, the two Daluo Jingxian fought more fiercely than the previous two. The Dharma above their true spirits was densely packed, and they wanted to assimilate each other. It seemed that they did not intend to return until they completely destroyed each other. However, the Daluo Jingxian was immortal and their true spirits existed forever. It was impossible to destroy their true spirits. In other words, the two Daluo Jingxian would never return. Of course, whether they could return or not had nothing to do with Fengzichin. The most important thing now was to cultivate the Tree of World. The sages had all appeared, and the great witch demon war was not far away. If the Tree of World could not support the Eldritch world by then, he would be in big trouble. This place is really a treasure for the Tree of World. Fengzichin exclaimed as he took out the Tree of World and let it absorb the remaining connate origin here. With his current cultivation, he could not touch the connate origin that was polluted by the chaotic evil qi, let alone refine it. If he really became the Daluo Jingxian, he might try to refine it. But now, he could only give it to the Tree of World. A few years later, the connate origin here was completely absorbed by the Tree of World. Two balls of light filled with connate Taoist rhymes appeared. The Tree of World shook its roots and spat out the origin of the world at Fengzichin, which shrank back into the chaos bead. Alas! There are fragments again. Stepping forward, Fengzichin saw the connate numinous treasure fragments within. Although he had expected it, he could not help but feel disappointed when he actually saw it. Fortunately, these two connate spiritual treasures are compatible. Perhaps I can fuse them into a spiritual treasure. When I have time in the future, I will study it carefully. After putting away the two connate spiritual treasures, Fengzichin rushed to the next location. In the blink of an eye, thousands of years had passed. In these 1,000 years, Fengzichin continued to move forward in a straight line. Along the way, he found 10 more places where the Daluo Jingxian had fallen. Unfortunately, Fengzichin did not find a complete connate numinous treasure in these 10 battlefields, but he still obtained a huge pile of numinous treasure fragments. The Tree of World, on the other hand, had undergone a shocking change after absorbing so much connate origin. The origin energy on his body was vast and mighty, and the aura of the Great Tao was incomparably dense. It was extremely shocking. Compared to the Daluo Jingxian, it was much stronger. According to Fengzichin's estimation, if the Tree of World could give birth to complete spiritual intelligence, it would have a cultivation of the Sage-to-be realm as soon as it transformed. Unfortunately, the origin of the world was a chaos spiritual root, and its origin was not inferior to the chaos demon god. In the untainted land, it was impossible for it to give birth to spiritual intelligence. There was probably no need to wait for it to transform. The moment it was born with intelligence, it would probably be greeted with the endless attacks of the heavenly Tao. The Tree of World, what a pity. Shaking his head, Feng Zichen no longer paid attention to the Tree of World, but focused on the 3,000 sectors. The 3,000 sectors, which were interdependent with the Tree of World, naturally benefited a lot from its great improvement. In these worlds, the heaven and earth had stabilized, and the chaotic chi wandering in the void was gradually digested by the heaven and earth. The chaos of the ordered Dharma also began to calm down, and the chi of heaven and earth showed signs of dispersing. Everything was developing in a good direction. Of course, the birth of a world could not be achieved overnight. No matter how strong the origin was, it would take countless years to evolve. Now, these worlds only lacked the accumulation of time. Let's wait a little longer. When these sectors give birth to their origin consciousness, the way of heaven will not stop me from entering. After some calculations, Feng Zichen calculated the time to step into the sector. After the sector gave birth to its origin consciousness, it had the power to protect itself, and the way of heaven would withdraw its attention. As long as the sector was not destroyed, the way of heaven would not pay attention to it. At this time, it was the time for Feng Zichen to enter the sector. This time, the Tree of World's origin has surpassed most Daluo Jinxians, and it can provide me with a lot of help. With this thought, Feng Zichen's heart moved, and he borrowed part of the Tree of World's power to support himself. In an instant, Feng Zichen's aura soared into the sky. Even under the suppression of the rules of heaven, it still stirred up the wind and clouds within thousands of miles. It was extremely powerful. What a strong power! Feeling the strong power in his body, Feng Zichen was overjoyed. With this power, even if he did not have the destiny of the human race, he could still contend against a golden immortal. If he added the power of the destiny of the human race. If he added the fate of the human tribe, he would not be as restrained as before when facing the world devastator Taoist and the others. He could fight them without restraint. It's a pity that the Tree of World is a coward. If it could take the initiative to attack, how many Daluo Jinxian would be able to fight against it? Feng Zichen said angrily as he retracted his aura. Just by lending him a part of its power, it could give him power that was not inferior to Daluo Jinxian. One could imagine how strong the Tree of World was. However, the Tree of World was extremely timid, perhaps because it was scared out of its wits by the Chaos Demon God in its early years. It could borrow its power, but it could not take the initiative to attack. If not, Feng Zichen could directly control the Tree of World to fight against the enemy. It would save him a lot of trouble. Why did he have to do it himself? Wouldn't it be troublesome? It's been so long. I wonder where Xing Tian, Qua Fu, and the others are now. Thinking of Qua Fu, Feng Zichen could not help but feel puzzled. That day, in order to avoid the suppression of Mount Buzhou, the 6 of them plunged into the primordial ruins in a panic. They were separated and landed in different places. However, it had been more than 1,000 years since the 6 of them came here. Until now, he had not found any trace of anyone. This was somewhat abnormal. I hope I'm not too unlucky to meet the World Devastator Taoist and the others head-on. The separation of the 6 of them was the most disadvantageous to Feng Zichen. The 3 of them came from the same sect and definitely had a secret method to contact each other. Xing Tian and Qua Fu would not lack the corresponding secret method. As for him, he could not contact anyone. Chapter 159. What a blunder. I didn't have time to exchange tokens with the Qua Fu and the rest. Feng Zichen said in frustration as he shook his head. If he encountered the World Devastator Taoist and the other 2 alone, it would be difficult for him to escape under their combined forces. However, there is a lot of chaotic chi here. The World Devastator Taoist and the rest might be collecting it and won't be able to take care of me for now, Feng Zichen consoled himself after a while. As demonic Tao cultivators, the chaotic chi was no less than an ultimate treasure to them. Whether it was used to refine treasures, cultivate one's body, or cultivate one's remarkable abilities, it could greatly increase one's power. Feng Zichen did not believe that they would not be tempted. Haha. This is really my treasure ground. Suddenly, the World Devastator Taoist's arrogant laughter sounded from afar and landed clearly in Feng Zichen's ears. What? Just as Feng Zichen was wondering if he would encounter the World Devastator Taoist and the rest, he heard the laughter. His expression changed as he cursed himself for being a jinx. With a flash, he entered the chaos bead and hid in the depths of the void. Several years passed in this manner. Ever since the World Devastator Taoist laughed, there had been no movement. Feng Zichen, who was hiding in the dark, could not help but secretly wonder if he had left. After waiting for several more years, there was still no movement from the World Devastator Taoist. Feng Zichen was getting impatient. He steered the chaos bead and stealthily rushed toward the source of the laughter. Grade 12 World Devastation Black Lotus. Why did the World Devastator Taoist summon it out of nowhere? From afar, Feng Zichen saw a black lotus blooming in the wind. It emitted a black stream of light and a destructive aura. Wait, that is, a connate spirit root? Damn it. That World Devastator Taoist has committed heinous sins. Why does he still have such great providence? Curious about the World Devastator Taoist's actions, Feng Zichen walked forward for a short distance and saw a connate spirit root struggling violently beside him. It was a spirit root that was shaped like a grapevine. Its body was covered with roots. Those were the roots of the 12th grade Black Lotus of Destruction. They were constantly extracting its innate source, which was also the reason why it was struggling so violently. Judging from the aura of the grapevine, it was undoubtedly a superior grade connate spiritual root. How could it be a match for the 12th grade Black Lotus of Destruction? Moreover, with the help of the World Devastator Taoist, it did not even have a chance to resist. Before Feng Zichen came, the Black Lotus of Destruction had devoured the innate origin of this spiritual root for several years. Now, it was at the end of its life. Under the absorption of the Black Lotus of Destruction, the innate heaven grapevine's spiritual light was dimming. Its life force was also weakening, and it was on the verge of death. The World Devastator Taoist's luck is really boundless. Looking at the World Devastator Taoist in the distance, Feng Zichen felt extremely conflicted. The location of the connate spirit root was on the path he had to pass. He was just about to reach it when the World Devastator Taoist suddenly appeared and scared him away, causing him to miss the treasure for no reason. Feng Zichen felt extremely conflicted. This doesn't make sense. I have great merit on me, and I naturally have boundless providence gathering. How could I miss the treasure and let the World Devastator Taoist take advantage of me? Moreover, the World Devastator Taoist's sins are monstrous. He has repeatedly caused chaos in the primordial world. No matter how great his providence is, it cannot withstand his consumption. It should have been exhausted long ago. Then what's the situation now? No matter how I look at it, it feels like his providence has completely suppressed mine. But how is that possible? Seeing the excitement on the World Devastator Taoist's face, Feng Zichen felt even more upset. Where are Mo Luo and Mi Tian? Extremely depressed, Feng Zichen decided to leave. After all, out of sight, out of mind. Perhaps he would feel better if he did not see the World Devastator Taoist's annoying face. But just as he was about to move, he realized that something was wrong. It had been so long, but Mo Luo and Mi Tian had not appeared. Could it be that they were not here at all? With that thought, Feng Zichen controlled the chaos bead and carefully probed the surroundings, trying to find the auras of Mo Luo and Mi Tian. As expected, the two of them are not here. Several months later, Feng Zichen looked around several times but did not find the auras of Mo Luo and Mi Tian. They were not here. Then, kill him. After confirming that Mo Luo and Mi Tian were not here, Feng Zichen's eyes turned cold. He took out the Hongmeng Daozhong and used all his strength to directly smash it at the World Devastator Taoist's head. At this moment, the World Devastator Taoist was completely immersed in the pleasure of increasing his source energy. How could he have imagined that someone would launch a sneak attack at this time? Caught off guard, he was hit by Feng Zichen. Boom! With a loud explosion, the Black Lotus of Destruction was directly overturned by the Hongmeng Daozhong. Without the protection of the Black Lotus of Destruction, the tyrannical bell waves blasted the World Devastator Taoist's body one after another, sending him flying. One could see that shocking cracks had appeared on his body like porcelain. Blood gushed out like a fountain, making him look extremely miserable. Ah! It's you again. While flying, the World Devastator Taoist glanced out of the corner of his eye and saw Feng Zichen's disgusting face. He could not help but be enraged and spit out a mouthful of blood. The World Devastator Taoist could be said to be extremely aggrieved. Twice now. A total of 2 times. It was the same in the Thunder Lock, and it was the same here. Every time he was at his most complacent, Feng Zichen would jump out and completely destroy his hopes of recovering his source energy. Back in the Thunder Lock, the World Devastator Taoist was prepared to devour the source energy of the Thunder Lord of the Nine Heavens so that once he transformed, he would have the strength of Daluo Jingxian. But who would have thought that the moment he was about to succeed, the World Tree would suddenly appear and snatch his source energy, causing him to fail at the last moment. And now, he was about to completely devour the innate grapevine and recover his source energy. But with Feng Zichen's attack, the source energy that he had just devoured from the innate grapevine was completely shattered and returned to the world. This way, not only did he work for nothing, but he also suffered heavy injuries because of it. How could the World Devastator Taoist not be angry? How could he not be angry? Ah! I want you to die. The pagoda, furious, the World Devastator Taoist wanted to take out the pagoda, but Feng Zichen would not give him the chance. Before the World Devastator Taoist could finish his sentence, Feng Zichen raised the Hongmeng Daozhong and smashed it at him. Dang! 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 A series of rapid bell sounds rang, causing the World Devastator Taoist to be in a daze. Naturally, he could not control the pagoda. Do you think you are worthy of killing me? Taking out the Zichen sword, Feng Zichen waved his hand and slashed out a sword ray, leaving a huge wound on the World Devastator Taoist's body. Chapter 160. In the past, Feng Zichen had used all his means but was unable to leave a single wound on the World Devastator Taoist. Now, it was different. Every move he made could cause the World Devastator Taoist's flesh to split open. Although he could not cause much damage to the World Devastator Taoist, he looked extremely miserable. After all, it was the World Devastator Taoist's true body. Sensing the World Devastator Taoist's situation, the 12-World Destruction Black Lotus shone brightly and charged toward Feng Zichen. Chaos Bead, go! Seeing the Black Lotus of Destruction charging toward him, Feng Zichen sent the Chaos Bead out of his body like a black stream of light. It flew above the Black Lotus of Destruction and froze it there. However, although the Chaos Bead was powerful, the Black Lotus of Destruction was also extraordinary. Under the suppression of the Chaos Bead, black flames suddenly rose from the Black Lotus of Destruction's body. It emitted a terrifying aura of destruction and burned time and space into nothingness. After time and space disappeared, the suppression power of the Chaos Bead suddenly dissipated. The Black Lotus of Destruction took this opportunity to escape from the seal of the Chaos Bead and flew toward the World Devastator Taoist. Get lost. After finally finding an opportunity to suppress the World Devastator Taoist, Feng Zichen would not allow the Black Lotus of Destruction to save him. He suddenly turned around and used the Hongmeng Daozhong to send the Black Lotus of Destruction back. At the same time, the Chaos Bead flew over and stopped using its suppression power. Instead, it fought with the Black Lotus of Destruction to prevent it from getting close to the World Devastator Taoist. Turning back, Feng Zichen looked at the dazed World Devastator Taoist and could not help but have the urge to kill him. He wanted to take this opportunity to send him to the land of eternal rest. Die. Once the urge to kill arose, it could not be stopped. Feng Zichen hardened his heart and spat out a mouthful of blood essence onto the Hongmeng Daozhong. In the next moment, the primordial chaos Dao Bell grew in the wind, transforming into 100,000 feet in size. It enveloped the World Devastator Taoist within and began to vibrate. Clang! 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 Clang. Clang. 5 consecutive rings of the bell almost drained all of Feng Zichen's magic power. Within Hongmeng Daozhong, thousands of strands of Hongmeng Qi descended, shattering space-time and destroying all spells. They drowned the world devastator Taoist, attempting to assimilate him into Hongmeng Qi. Right at this moment, a sudden change occurred. As if sensing the danger the world devastator Taoist was in, the pagoda appeared on its own and flew to the top of his head. A black screen of light hung down to protect him, blocking the assimilation of Hongmeng's Qi. Boundless scenes of death appeared on the black screen of light. Fiend gods had fallen, worlds had been destroyed, and the Grand Tao had declined. It was like the source of death, incomparably terrifying. Hongmeng's Qi blasted onto its body, producing a sizzling sound, and actually cancelled each other out. Not good. Upon seeing this, Feng Zichen immediately understood that the world devastator Taoist would not be able to kill him today with the protection of this supreme treasure. World devastator Taoist, farewell for today. See you again. After picking up the Khanate spirit root on the ground and plucking a lotus seed from the black lotus of destruction, Feng Zichen cupped his fists and bade farewell to the world devastator Taoist, who was about to regain his consciousness. After that, he first retrieved the Hongmeng Daozhong, then entered the chaos bead and ran into the distance from the depths of the void. His actions could be said to be done in one go. Bastard, don't leave. Under the pagoda, the world devastator Taoist had just regained consciousness when he saw Feng Zichen's hurriedly leaving back view. He could not help but roar and chase after him. However, he was too severely injured and had no choice but to stop after a short chase. He found a random place and went into seclusion to recuperate. As for Feng Zichen, he flew in the depths of the void for several years before finding a secluded place to count his gains. Khanate purple crystal grape. After taking out the Khanate grape, Feng Zichen used his divine will to sense it for a moment and learned of its origin and effects. The Khanate purple crystal grape was a superior grade Khanate spirit root of the primordial world. Every 18,000 years, it could produce 9 bunches of purple crystal grapes, each with 81 grapes. Purple was the color of the Great Tao and was extremely noble. Once a Khanate item was purple, it would be extraordinary even if its grade was not high. This was the case for the Khanate purple crystal grape. The Khanate purple crystal grape was born from the creation of the Great Tao and had supreme effects. Eating one alone could awaken and improve one's bloodline. The more one ate, the better the effect. If one ate a bunch, one could go against the Khanate heavens and turn from a postnatal life form into a Khanate life form. From then on, one could live as long as heaven and earth and become Tai Jinxian. If one could eat 10 bunches, one could obtain the creation of the Great Tao and ascend to the heavens in a single step, turning into a Khanate god fiend and becoming Daluo. Of course, such a shortcut was not favored by the heavenly Tao. Therefore, those who used this technique to transform into a Khanate god fiend had to first pass the test of the heavenly Tao before they could truly become a Khanate god fiend. Otherwise, everything would be for naught under the heavenly punishment. What a treasure! Everything else aside, just its ability to awaken bloodlines is enough to make it a sacred item of the god fiend Tao. Feng Zichen was overjoyed after learning about the effects of the Khanate purple crystal grape. One had to know that the foundation of the god fiend Tao lay in one's bloodline. After entering the divine sea realm, cultivators of the god fiend Tao would have to choose a Khanate bloodline to cultivate and strengthen it continuously before transforming it into a corresponding Khanate body. After that, they would use the Khanate bloodline as a foundation to transform into a Khanate life form. The best of them might even be able to take a step further and transform into a Khanate god fiend. Khanate bloodlines were the foundation of the god fiend Tao, and it was not an exaggeration to call the Khanate purple crystal grape a sacred item that could improve one's bloodline. In fact, this spirit root could even be used as a treasure to protect the fortunes of the god fiend Tao. World devastator Taoist truly deserves to die. At that moment, there was no way Feng Zichen would not understand with the treasure in hand. The Khanate purple crystal grape was fated with him and was a treasure that the heavenly Tao prepared for him. However, the world devastator Taoist snatched it from him. How could he not be angry? World origin, come. Taking out the world origin, Feng Zichen injected it into the connate purple crystal grape to make up for its missing connate origin. After the world devastator Taoist devoured so much connate origin, the connate purple crystal grape was already on the brink of death. If not for Feng Zichen's timely intervention, this spirit root would have been destroyed. At that thought, Feng Zichen felt a lingering fear. Back then, he did not know that this item would be so important to him. Whoosh! After absorbing the world origin, the connate purple crystal grape regained some vitality. A tinge of green appeared on its originally withered body as its leaves swayed with the wind with the joy of rebirth. Again. Seeing that the world origin was useful, Feng Zichen could not be bothered to feel the pinch. He took out the remaining 8 world origins and injected them into the connate purple crystal grape. Fortunately, the world tree had previously devoured the 12 battlefields and provided him with 12 connate origins. Apart from the 3 he used, there were still 9 left. Otherwise, Feng Zichen would not have been able to think of a way to save the connate purple crystal grape in such a short time. Chapter 161. Even if the connate purple crystal grape was at its peak, it would take a long time to digest so much world origin energy. Moreover, it was now on the verge of death. It would probably take tens of thousands of years to digest all the world origin energy and return to its peak state. He kept the connate purple crystal grape and placed it in the chaos bead. Under the Tree of World, he planned to use the Taoist rhymes from the Tree of World to speed up its digestion of the world origin energy. After dealing with the connate purple crystal grape, Feng Zichen flipped his hand and took out a black lotus seed. This was the seed of the 12th grade black lotus of destruction. Before Feng Zichen left, he had seen a lotus seed in the black lotus of destruction and felt strange, so he had picked it. It was surrounded by destruction Taoist rhymes and countless connate runes. It gave off the same aura as the black lotus of destruction, and there was also a trace of the connate purple crystal grape's aura. The connate purple crystal grape was a superior grade connate spirit root and contained a very rich connate origin energy. In just a few years, the black lotus of destruction could not refine it completely. It could only refine a part of it. And the connate origin energy that could not be refined was stagnant in its body and gave birth to a lotus seed. Otherwise, the world devastator Taoist would not have allowed the black lotus of destruction to produce a lotus seed. Ever since the world devastator Taoist was born, he did not allow the black lotus of destruction to produce new lotus seeds to avoid exhausting its origin energy and damaging its own potential. The connate purple crystal grape has the ability to revert to its roots. This lotus seed was born from it and has inherited almost all the abilities of the 12th grade black lotus of destruction. It is simply a low-grade version of the black lotus of destruction. Feng Zichen looked at the lotus seed in his hand. After a long while, he finally came to a realization. Unfortunately, because of this, the connate spirit treasure that this lotus seed turned into is naturally countered by the black lotus of destruction. It has no power to fight back. Who knows, it might be snatched away in one move. Shaking his head, Feng Zichen put the lotus seed aside and no longer cared about it. He would not cultivate this lotus seed until he dealt with this problem. He did not want the spirit treasure to fall into the world devastator Taoist's arms when he fought him. That would be depressing. Where is this place? After doing all this, Feng Zichen came out of his hiding place and investigated the situation. However, he just walked out for a short distance when he saw the space before him warp abruptly, and the heavens and the earth underwent a transformation as well. It pulled him into a strange space, and innate formation markings overlapped layer upon layer as they swept over. Subconsciously, Feng Zichen used the 5 Emperors' mystique to meet the attack head-on. Rumble. The 5 Monarch palm imprint whizzed out and slammed onto the innate formation runes. However, the innate formation runes flickered and ignored the 5 Monarch palm imprint, passing through it and continuing towards Feng Zichen. What? Feng Zichen was surprised. With a thought, 5-color divine light bloomed from his body. It was extremely bright and carried the power of creation of the 5 elements as it swept towards the innate formation pattern. Whoosh! The innate 5 elemental divine light swept past the innate formation runes without any effect. It was as if the innate formation runes were illusory and not real. Thunder, come! Feng Zichen's expression changed, and his right hand suddenly formed a seal. Thunder and lightning intertwined and turned into a bolt of 10,000 godly thunder that blasted forward. Rumble. Thunder and lightning exploded and evolved into the sun, moon, stars, mountains, rivers, grass, and trees. Everything in the universe was like a magnificent world. It crashed onto the innate formation runes and blasted them into pieces. Rumble. 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 Seeing that the 10,000 godly thunder was effective, Feng Zichen heaved a sigh of relief. He raised his hand and released several bolts of 10,000 godly thunder in an attempt to shatter the innate formation runes. As if it had sensed danger, the innate formation runes suddenly changed, and the space changed again. The 6 directions were suddenly out of place, and the heavens and the earth were turned upside down. Under this force, Feng Zichen's sense of direction was immediately blurred. The 10,000 godly thunder that was originally heading towards the front suddenly turned around and charged towards him. Innate 6 directions formation. Feng Zichen raised his virtuous spiritual light to block the 10,000 godly thunder. He stood there quietly and did not move. At this moment, he understood that the formation that trapped him was called the innate 6 directions formation. It was a supreme formation derived from the innate 6 directions Tao. What was the 6 directions? It was the 4 directions of heaven and earth, east, west, north, south, up and down. In this formation, nothing that belonged to the 6 directions Tao could shake it at all. Feng Zichen's innate 5 elements divine light and the 5 emperors' great handprint came from the sacred beasts of the 5 directions. How could they break this formation? Fortunately, after the primordial war, this formation was severely damaged and its power was greatly reduced. It's not difficult to break it. If this formation was still in its peak state, it would be troublesome today. After carefully sensing for a while, Feng Zichen could not help but feel relieved. This place should be the remains of a battlefield where the primordial great masters had set up the innate 6 directions formation to fight against the innate ferocious beasts. Break. Feng Zichen took out the Hongmeng Daozhong and blasted it at the center of the formation. In an instant, the qi of Hongmeng surged out and drowned the innate 6 directions formation. The innate formation patterns were assimilated, and the formation broke with a loud bang. As the formation broke, a tattered god clock with holes all over its body emerged from the void and floated in front of Feng Zichen. Innate 6 directions bell. He reached out and took the god clock. Information about it automatically appeared in Feng Zichen's mind. This was the eternal spiritual treasure of the primordial great god, Taoist 6 directions Tao being. It was a supreme grade innate spiritual treasure. Of course, it was now severely damaged and could not maintain its grade. It had already fallen to a middle grade innate spiritual treasure. However, if he could repair the cracks on the innate 6 directions bell, it would be able to recover further and become a superior grade innate spiritual treasure. As for restoring it to a supreme grade innate spiritual treasure, there was no hope of it being restored without a shocking opportunity. Below the innate 6 directions formation was a vast battlefield where 4 balls of innate origins appeared. 1 was clear and 3 were black, and they were entangled with each other. This 6 directions Taoist is so powerful. He could still force them to self-destruct when fighting 1 against 3. If he could survive from the primordial age, his achievements might not be weaker than the ancestral dragons. What a pity. Seeing such a powerful existence die here, Feng Zichen could not help but sigh. Judging from the remaining aura of 6 directions Taoist, he was probably not weaker than some demi-saints. However, there was no demi-saint in the primordial age. Daluo Jingxian was already at the end of the great path. If 6 directions Taoist could take another step forward under such circumstances, he was extraordinary. Whoosh! Without needing Feng Zichen to call, the Tree of Worlds sensed the aura of the innate origins. It extended a root and took root in the innate origins, absorbing it frantically.